My name is Dr. Alicia, and I'm going to get right into it. Today, we are picking up where we left off. This is my book club, and we meet pretty often. Actually, I would like to meet every Sunday and discuss this book, How to Be an Adult in Relationships, Five Keys to Mindful Loving by David Richo. And I've been working with people who enrolled in the Healing Haven program. I've had two cycles. In August, I'll be starting cycle 3 of Healing Haven, and it's so much fun. We just finished cycle 2 earlier today, and we talked about how to have a positive mindset. I really do think that this book really helps, I think, to explain all the things that happen to us. And so today I'm going to be reading from this book, but I'll be coming on here. I'm available next Sunday, so I'll come on here next Sunday to talk about how to be an adult in relationships. I love this book. It really talks about how we need to treat other people like humans. I feel like so much of what I see and observe, just politically, how people treat each other in this world, and even the way people treat each other in our homes. I think there's so much effort to dehumanize other people. And I know that hurt people tend to hurt people, but I would love to find some sort of foundation and basis on just basic human dignities being restored. And a wonderful framework with another therapist who clearly agrees with me on how to live in a way that's very peaceful. And I think that being an adult in relationships is something that our world needs to embrace. There's a lot of adult children walking around this world harming other people. So I would love to have this to be a foundation on how we need to see our pain, see each other, and how we need to treat each other with some dignity and basic human rights. I mean, this is where this is coming from, just basic human rights. We have been covering this book for quite some time, and this is my first time actually recording these conversations. So anyway, today we're going to talk about, on page 18, we're going to talk about, and we still haven't even gotten into the chapters of this book. This is really just kind of the epilogue. It's chapter 1, how it all began. We haven't even gotten to the meat of it. And the last time we met, we did talk about how to live the life of a Buddha. How to live a life of being mindful, of experiencing things in the way where instead of reacting to things from the gut, saying things from the gut out your mouth. Have y'all ever done that? I have. When I'm not in my mindful space, anything that comes to my gut, I have no filter. I'll just I'll just blurt it out. And when things like that happen, you regret because you haven't been mindful with how you're talking to somebody and presenting yourself to people. And we all are victim to this sometimes. So, I think that this book, in the last time we met, was a wonderful way to start to become mindful in how we speak to people, how we interact with people, all of that. So I just want to welcome everybody. I see JG in the chat. Welcome. And if you're here today and you're just joining us, one more time, I just want to say we are covering how to be an adult in relationships. It is a book by David Richo. He's a wonderful therapist. I love therapists because licensed therapists, y'all don't know the training that we go through. It's not like I'm speaking from the gut, right? We go through an extensive application process just to enter a school that's going to train you on how to help others. And then you have lots of courses you go through. And then even when you graduate, after taking a whole curriculum of courses, you still have, that's where the practice really starts, right? And so years and years of study and practice, so I sort of understand and I love drawing upon what other therapists have figured out. So anyway, he does a wonderful job. I love the title of this book. I think we're going to get right into it. I'm on page 18, and it talks about a positive spin on how it was and is. So the very first thing he mentions is that it may seem like a sign of weakness to have needs. Actually, needs direct us to grow in ways we were meant to. Childhood yearnings for attention, acceptance, appreciation, affection, and the experience of being allowed to be ourselves are not pathological, but developmental. And I would say this does not only mean these are experiences you've had as a child. I think as adults, we still have these needs as adults. But a lot of what we have and a lot of the things that we see in media is that having needs and needing something and not having it, for a lot of us, we feel ashamed by it. Like there's something wrong with us because I have a need, an emotional need. It could be a physical need. It could be a materialistic need. Whatever needs that we have as children and as adults as well, there's always some shame just by having this need. It's like, what's wrong with me that I really do need a hug from my mom today? Or I really would love for my partner. I really need my partner to come and compliment me, or I really need for somebody to call me. I would really love to have somebody in my life that I can share my life with. Sometimes we look at that as a weakness. And I think that we need to start looking at all of our needs as is not a sign of weakness to have these needs, right? So it says, in trying to get a parent to pay attention to us. So all of us have these needs, but when we're growing up, to try to get a parent to pay attention to us, we were seeking what we needed for our healthy evolution. We were not being selfish. We were not, but self-nurturing. There is no need to feel ashamed about it now. And I think that as children, when we grow up and we have some of the fundamental needs that were never met, a lot of times we get the message that needing love and attention and acceptance for yourself, needing to have our parents pay attention to us, sometimes we feel like we get the message from our parents that having these needs means that you're selfish. Well, I can't do that for you now. I'm tired. Well, I can't do that for you now. I've had a long day of work and I'm too tired to give my children what they need. Or I can't give that to you right now. And I think it's legitimate because so many of us are working every day, long hours, and we come home and we got more things to do. We have to be able to give to our children. But it's very difficult to do that when you're tired and exhausted. But the thing is, the dynamic of that's the reality. But the dynamic of that is often being told, can you please pay attention to me? We get the message that means we're selfish. And that's not the case, because when you feel like you're selfish because you have some need that you would really like to get met, you start to feel ashamed by that. You guys in the book club, does that resonate with you at all? Feeling like selfish because you want someone to pay attention to you. You want someone to stop what they're doing and to pay attention to you. Have you ever felt shame? How about you all in the chat? Have you ever felt ashamed because when you were growing up, because you want your parent, your mom or your dad, or to someone to see how good of a grade you got in school, or come home and wanted someone to just listen to your day? You struggled. Maybe you got into a fight on the playground and you really needed somebody to sit and pay attention to how your day went. And a lot of us would have loved for that to have happened, but sometimes we can see that our parents are busy and they're not able to give us that, or you feel kind of ashamed for having this need to want somebody to pay attention to you. So a lot of times we are given messages that wanting individual attention from a parent or from a spouse or from a friend, that somehow you are being selfish for wanting that. So that's what he's talking about. These are, it's seen as a sign of weakness and selfishness that we even need somebody to pay attention to us. Yeah. So JG is saying, I never want to feel like I'm using them or being a pest. Yeah. And particularly women, we're always given that we need to self-sacrifice, that we need to sacrifice ourselves, that we need to forfeit a nap or sleep just so that we can just give to other people. And we also have to be in a position where we can receive. Okay, so he goes on to say, childhood forces influence present choices. For the past is on a continuum with the present. Early business that is still unfinished does not have to be a sign of immaturity. So it's okay for all of us to have baggage from our childhood. All of us do. Every single one of us, myself included. We all have baggage. And it's not a sign of maturity when your baggage comes up, right? Rather, it's a signal. It can signal continuity. Recurrence of childhood themes in adult relationships gives our life depth, in the sense that they are not superficially passing over life's events, but inhabiting them fully as they evolve. Our past becomes a problem only when it leads to a compulsion to repeat our losses, or it smuggles unconscious determinants in our decision. Our work then is not to abolish our connection with the past, but to take it into account without being at its mercy. The question is how much the past interferes with our chances of healthy relating and living in accord with our deepest needs, values, and wishes. What he's saying is that you have to spend some time making the connection between what's happened in your past and how you function today. And that no matter what has happened in your past, not to be ashamed of it, not to be ashamed of some needs and wants that wasn't met, but to be consciously aware of the fact that you had these needs, they weren't being met, and thinking about how they show up in your life currently. And this happens for all of us. So the question is how much the past interferes with our chances of healthy relating, living in accord with our deepest needs, values, and wishes. Okay, so he goes on to say, for better or for worse, our psychic development is the result of a lifelong continuum of relationships. The adult goal is to work through each of them. So I think for so many of us, we bury them. We say, yeah, this happened to me in my past, but you know what? That was just in the past. I don't want to think about it. I just want to continue on with my life, and I just want to disassociate myself and disconnect myself with pain that's happened. I'm going to go through in my life, and that's where you don't know it's going to come up for you. So the best way to deal with the pain of your childhood sometimes is to go through them. That doesn't mean to live in the past. That means recognize how the past is affecting you now, and to deal with some of that and to process it. I was talking earlier today with another group that I was meeting with, and we were talking about reflective learning, being able to be reflective of your past. And they were saying in the study how well you're able to think about your childhood and reflect on your childhood is deeply correlated with your level of functioning as an adult. So what they were saying was that there's a scale or an assessment. You can scale you of reflective thinking. So the assessment is from a -1 to a 9. And they said the general population of people, general population of people are able to reflect at about a 6 level of reflection. But they also gave this scale to people who were in prison. And people who were in prison, their reflective ability was maybe at about 2. So it was 3 points lower than just the general population. And so they were talking about what happens when we're not able to process all of the things that's happened to us in our past, that we're low level of being able to reflect and to be able to think has an impact on our ability to be empathetic to others. So it's not that you've been traumatized by all the things that have happened to you in your past. That's not important. It's things that have happened to you that were problematic. It's your ability to be able to think about those things and to be able to, why would my parents do that? Why would my teachers do that? What happened that this person did this? When you're able to kind of come up with a reason, why your parents did it. You know what? I think my mom, she was really cranky sometimes because I do remember her mother treating her this way. It's just being able to be empathetic and understand others has a lot to do with how we're able to function as an adult. So that's just an example of like how we do need to kind of deal with this and confront this because it helps us. Also, people who have depression, their reflective ability was more at like a 3 or a 3.5, where the general population is almost at a 6. But the good thing about this study was that going into therapy, having a place to just talk about some of the things that's happened to you in your past really does help you to become an adult in relationships, because you have this place where you've been able to have a reflective functioning, which increases your ability to have empathy. And having empathy helps you with adult relationships currently. So the empathy is what's developed when you're able to reflect upon what's happening with you. So it was really nice for me to know that, because as a therapist, I want to know, gosh, am I really making a difference? Well, yeah, probably more so in ways that I don't know, like just having a place where someone can just sit and talk about the things that come up for them really is having an effect, or having a positive effect on just their ability to empathize with anybody in general. And I think it's great where I can be in a position where I can give someone a corrective experience so that they can get through a lot of the issues that are happening with them. I know he's being loud. It's very noisy in here. Yeah, voices right. He'll walk around and just talk like that. Thank you, Khalid. He just walks around. I was trying to hint to him that he was being talking a mile a minute. But anyway, so that's important. I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, so that's important. Like, and studies have shown that just being in therapy, even 10 to 15 sessions in therapy, increases your reflective functioning, which decreases anxiety and depression and the ability to be empathetic. And I'm thinking that me or therapists being empathetic to other people kind of helps create this sort of empathetic environment that's a corrective experience. Okay, so let's go on. It says, for better or worse, I think I read that already. Where did I leave off? Okay, we wrestle with past relationships respectfully, like Jacob with the angel, until they yield their blessing. The blessing is the revelation of what we missed or lost. So the blessing is just in the realization of, wow, I needed this when I was growing up and I never got it. That's the blessing, that revelation. Can you believe that? This man is actually talking about the pain that you experienced when you were growing up is actually a blessing. Yeah, I think that makes sense because pain is inevitable. Experiencing pain, all of us are going to. I'm not saying that it's a great thing that people are mistreated, but what I'm saying is that if you do enter into a situation where you do feel pain, I'm saying that these opportunities, if you process them and you deal with them, you can learn from them. So I'm not saying that this is great, that bad things happen to people, but I am saying that what this author is saying, that the revelation is a blessing. Knowing that gives us momentum to let go of the past and find need fulfillment in ourselves and in other people who can love us for affirming ways. Such love restores or repairs a psychic structure that was lost or damaged in early life. We can begin a coherent sense of who we are, which in turn makes it possible for us to love others in the same powerful ways. I like that because you are not your past. There's so many people who get online and they say, oh, you came from a broken home, so there's something wrong with you. Or you came from a home where your mom wasn't there for you. Or you came from a home where your dad abandoned you. And they try to pigeonhole you and put you into a box based on your past experience, as if it's a determinant of how you're going to live your life right now. And it's not. It does not have to be that. The past does not have to dictate the present. I think this is what this man is saying. Yes, you can go through things that are unfortunate. And yes, relationships happen and relationships fail. And sometimes they don't fail. All of these things happen to you, but it does not have to define who and what you are. You can deal with it. And honestly, I really think that it gives people, personally, I think it gives people a lot of character and in substance. When you know, in a sense of sensitivity, when people have gone through things. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Okay. All right. We receive from others and thereby learn to give, for love teaches generosity. This maturation consists not in leaving needs behind, but in recruiting support of others who can give age-appropriate and generous responses to our needs. Excellent. Among childhood habits, defenses, in particular, have been looked upon as signs of inadequacy and pathology. However, we need many of our defenses for psychological survival. We are defending ourselves from things for which we do not feel ready. For example, closeness or full commitment. We learn to stand guard over our unique wishes and needs in early life if showing them was unsafe. We learn to defend the delicate and vulnerable core of ourselves from humiliation, depletion, or distrust. These are skills, survival skills, not deficits. I really love that because it's the best thing that Freud ever did in his career is talk about our defenses. I think that when we were growing up, sometimes it's so painful to deal with disappointment, with anger towards somebody doing something that they shouldn't have done, or they didn't do something that they needed to have done. All of the disappointments that all of us have had growing up. I remember being 5 years old, waiting for somebody to pick me up somewhere, and and my mom being late, and I'd be like, "Why were you late picking me up?" And she was like, "I was on the phone and lost track of time." And I remember thinking, "Dang, this lady can't get it together." Like all of these things that happen when you have disappointment. So that's just an example of a disappointment. And the defenses are some of the things that we have to tell ourselves so that we can deal with the pain of, is my mom picking me up, or is my mom going to be there for me when I need it? And for the people who are in Healing Haven, I think I did a whole thing on this. Let me see if I can find it in our book. 50 defense mechanisms. Yeah, so our defense mechanisms, instead of looking at them as pathological, our defense mechanisms really keep us, it really keeps us grounded. You know, it really should be a place where we're able to look at it and be able to say, you know what, I needed to rationalize. On page 48 of our book, the Healing Haven book, I don't know if y'all have it in front of you, but they talk about defense mechanisms, or I wrote about defense mechanisms. All of the feelings that we have: anger, fear, disgust, sadness, surprise, and happiness. Those are basic feelings all of us have. But anger and sadness are the two things that for a lot of us is uncomfortable to feel. And sometimes it doesn't make sense to feel anger toward my mom, for not picking me up like she was supposed to be, because when I came home to her, she had dinner cooked. You know, she had, there's so many other wonderful things that she's done. So in my childhood mind that thinks black and white, sometimes it's really difficult for me to kind of think about that. So I can rationalize it. I can say, well, it wasn't really that big of a deal. I wasn't really that sad that she didn't pick me up like she said she was going to do. It's really not that big of a deal. That's a great way to kind of like minimize. Because if I had to deal with, this is just an example, if you deal with the pain of being abandoned, which is very painful for some of us, sometimes we'll just deny it, or we'll minimize it, or we'll just say, I've had some experiences where I'd be like, I forgot about that whole thing. That was really terrible. Well, I just kind of suppressed it, right? We suppress some of the things. And some of that is the defenses that we have to do to kind of like deal with things that are painful. In that moment, it was appropriate to do. Now, I think the issue, and I'm wondering if he's going to get to this, and I think he will. These were survival skills, not deficits in the moment, in your past, that you needed to do. Now, I think where it can become problematic is if you continue to adhere to these defenses when you're an adult and you're reacting to somebody as if they were your parent, but they're not. You're holding on to these defenses, right? Okay, so let's read on. I think we're going to get to that. If we feel unsafe as children, we may still feel that way and still be using our old defenses. Yeah, so he does get to it. We may run from or defend ourselves against intimacy now for fear of a replay of childhood betrayals that left us crouching behind the wall of fear, which is defenses, right? On this wall are graffiti that besiege our self-esteem. And part of that graffiti is, don't let anyone get too close. Don't commit all the way. No relationship will ever work. No one can love you as you truly need to be loved. Men and women can't be trusted. Our work as adults is to replace these governing principles of behavior with healthy and more optimistic ones. Governing principles that limit our full potential for lively energy. The manifestation of our own unique life force are like the governor on a truck accelerator that prevents the truck from ever getting up to full speed. That fear, the abandonment issues. Thank you, Khalid. People in the chat are writing things. Thank you. That fear is what stops us from really having intimacy later in our life. And for many of us, I think it's appropriate to be cautious when you're dating or when you're loving someone. It is appropriate to be cautious, right? You don't want to just put all your love and energy into somebody right off the bat and you haven't really worked on things. It takes time to build up trust. But for some people, they just never quite feel like they can trust, because of this abandonment issue. Or they instantly come in and they want to be instant friends or instantly start dating or cling to somebody because they're afraid that that person will abandon them. So it still comes up in your life. Any comment on that, you guys? I see you all in here. You're shy to talk. People in the chat are talking. How about you all in the chat? Khalid talked about abandonment issues. Yeah, abandonment issues are tough. You know, are you going to be there for me? There's a lady, oh my God, may she rest in peace, Sue Johnson. She's a fantastic lady. I've taken a lot of her trainings. Sue Johnson, you're nodding, right? Sue Johnson recently died. She passed away, and that lady was phenomenal. What a great teacher. And she talked about couples therapy. She said every single argument between a man and a woman, or a man and a man, every single argument between any couple is boiled down to one question. Are you going to be there for me when I need you? And it's funny because when you first hear it, you're like, nah, it ain't about that. It's not about that. But she goes through in her training and she videotapes herself meeting with couples. And I've seen all of her videos, and she'll boil it down. She'll have a grown man in there in tears talking about, yes, I really deep down feel like I don't want my wife to leave me, or I don't want this. Like, she has really been able to use attachment theory the way this gentleman does, David Richo, How to Be Adult in Relationships. She's able to use it in married couples or dating couples, and she's been able to pinpoint exactly what it is, how to be an adult in relationships. And that she boiled it down to that simple question that comes up for people: attachment. Are you going to be there when I need you? If I am sitting at the dinner table at your parents' house and your mom says something to me that is insulting, are you going to stick up for me? You know, are you going to protect me? If I call you and I'm sad about something and I need to talk to somebody about it, are you going to stop everything and address my needs and help me with this, or are you not? And she has been able to remarkably talk about every single argument between a couple boils down to that one question, and she's amazing. Sue Johnson, may that lady rest in peace. Ashe to Sue Johnson, because she had helped out a lot of people. And she's Britain. She has this accent, and I think sometimes the accent kind of throws people off in listening to her, but I love her work. So she talks about attachment. Anyway, the wall of fear, right? Most of us have unrelenting longing for whatever is missing from our childhood. Every intimate bond will resurrect these archaic yearnings, along with the terrors and frustrations that accompany chronically unmet needs. This is the reason why I feel that every intimate relationship you've ever been in, on some level, is the exact relationship that you needed to have in that moment. Because on some unconscious level, you picked that particular person to be with because you needed to work through some issues from your childhood. Why are you so attracted to that person? There was some issue that you needed to work through. I don't know, maybe on some level, you know, maybe I married Boyce because he's a college professor and my dad was a college professor, and we started dating when my father passed away. So that's kind of like, and that's something, right? And my dad, he knew Boyce. He probably was the number one fan of Boyce, by the way. We used to talk. My dad and I used to have long conversations about Boyce way before we started dating, because I've been friends with Boyce for 30 years. But he would call me, he'd be like, what's going on with Boyce this time? I'm like, well, he was on CNN. This is back in the CNN day. Boy, he got shut down on CNN. They really handed it to him. He's like, man, he needs to do, and I would relay messages between them. in our conversations or whatever. So I don't know. I'm sure Freud will have a fun time with that analogy. But anyway, okay. But this puts us in ideal position to revisit these thwarted needs, to revive our energy, and to reconstruct our inner world in accordance with life-affirming principles. A solid bond in a relationship, as in religious faith, endures despite the impact of events. Wow. Endures expect the impact of our events. So our resistance is the only obstacle to the growth that can emerge from pain. I've been talking about this for such a long time. I don't know if I need to talk about it some more, but there's growth from pain. I think when I started in my book, my workbook, we talked about mindfulness earlier today. And my quote was that I came up with, you may be forced to feel pain, but you are never forced to suffer from it. So it isn't an inevitable thing. So the issue with pain is a place of growth. Or it could be suffering. It's up to you to decide. But the pain that you experience in your life, a lot of times you can't decide that. But what you can decide is whether you're going to take that pain and grow from it, or if you're going to take that pain and suffer from it. As we mend the broken fabric of ourselves, what was arrested in the past is released. As we mend the broken fabric of ourselves, what was arrested in the past is released. We are back in touch with who we really are and can live in accord with that rediscovered essence. The way through your pain is dealing with it and releasing it and not being held back by the pain, afraid to feel the pain that's inevitable, right? Here I am on YouTube, comments are great in here, but things come up, things happen. My husband can come by and talk real loud, talk over me real loud. All these things happen, but I can decide how I want to deal with it, right? So yeah, I mean, to me, that's pretty heavy. That's heavy. Okay. Every person needs the nourishment of food throughout life. Likewise, psychologically healthy person needs the sustenance of the 5 A's. And y'all know what the 5 A's are. Attention, acceptance, appreciation, affection, and allowing in our lives. It is true that unmet needs for the 5 A's in childhood can be made up for in later life. In the sense that they cannot be fulfilled so absolutely, so immediately, or so unfailingly that absolute immediate fulfillment of needs by one person is appropriate only to infants, but needs can be fulfilled in short or long installments throughout life. Yes, you find moments of where all of your needs are met, right? You're in a relationship with another person, and it ain't always going to be great, right? We have to be realistic. You're always going to have issues in your relationships, but what you need to do is cherish the moments where things are going smoothly. Because circles. One of my favorite songs is by, y'all download this song by Robbie Fitzsimmons. It's a white boy. We're transcending race here. He's got a song, Robbie Fitzsimmons. He's got a song called Circles. And Lord, he was on to something, because that's what happens. You have moments where things are going wonderfully and all of your needs are met. Cherish those times, because there will be some problems happening. You will experience pain. There will be things going on. Being an adult in relationship is being able to realize that things are going to get missed. You're going to feel some pain. You will, in a relationship, your spouse or your partner will get it wrong. You know, it'll be like y'all will miss each other. You'll be mad at that person because they didn't done something. That's inevitable. It's the wonderful way that human beings are with each other. Okay. So you have, but in the midst of it, you know you're going to get it in doses. So it ain't going to be like that. It's not going to be rosy all the time. That's what he's saying there. Okay, and this is what he says. The problem is not that we seek gratification, but that we seek too much of it all at once, right? What we did not receive enough of before, we cannot receive enough of now. We did not receive enough of before. What we did not receive enough of before, we can receive enough of it now. It's not over for you. I remember I was working as a social, when I first began my work as a social worker, I worked in schools. I worked in a school in Southside Chicago. And I remember talking to the kids about college or whatever. And we were having this conversation. And one girl was just like, we can't do none of that stuff. We live in the projects. Just because we live in the projects mean we can't do none of that stuff. We ain't gonna be able to go to college and do all that stuff because we live in the projects. And I'm like, listen, just because you live in the projects, I mean, you're never gonna become anything. Like, she really believed it. She used to tell me that. We live in the project. And I would be like, nobody knows you live in the project. If you went to college, filled out this college application, because I was helping some students process their application. And so if you fill out this college application and get into college and do okay on your ACT scores, you can go to college. No one knows you're from the projects unless you say you're from the projects. Like, you are not defined by some project girl, but she had embraced and just thought that projects was her life, and that's what she was going to be. That's where she was always going to be. Interestingly enough, those housing projects are gone, you know, so God knows where she is now, but you know, they knocked them all down and built really nice house. I wouldn't even recognize that part when I go there nowadays. It's really kind of sad because there were some beautiful people there who lived in the projects, but I don't know where they are. But she really thought that being a project girl was who and what she was, and she was defined by that. But, you know, and I would be like, come on, you don't have to be defined by, you can pick and choose what you want to be. Your past does not have to define you. There's no shame. You shouldn't have shame dealing with that. Not to be proud of the fact that you're from the projects, but it's just saying that, okay, that was my past. That was who and what I am, but it doesn't have to dictate my future, right? So no matter what you experienced, it doesn't have to have a hold on you. And instead of pushing it down and repressing it, at some point you need to work through the pain. I think that's the biggest thing for today, working through the pain. Okay. We do not outgrow our early needs, whether they become less overwhelming, and we find less primitive ways to fulfill them. For example, an infant may need to be cradled and carried, while an adult may be satisfied with a supportive remark or a kindly glance. Sometimes a lifelong need can be fulfilled by such little moments of mindful love. However, we still need to be cradled at some time. So we all need. You want to say something, Karen?
Yeah, I wanted to say, Dr. Alicia, that I like how the author says that the processing of the pain is the good part. The pain itself is painful, obviously, yes, but the blessing in it is that we get to process the pain, and in processing the pain, we also get to change our mindset, which is what we worked on earlier today, is retraining our mindset to not stay stuck on the problem.
Yes.
To not stay fixated and stuck in the problem, yes, forever, but to find the silver lining or reframe what the problem is. And so that's what we talked about, and we worked on looking at the positivity, the positive aspects of the problem, and finding out what can we do about it. So
Yes.
like with the young lady who came from a bad neighborhood or whatever, the silver lining may be that if she gets accepted into college, if she was able to apply to a college, a university, and get the acceptance into the college, the silver lining or the reframing is that she has been accepted into college, that she can have a brighter future,
Yes.
that she can develop a better life for herself. So, you know, again, it's what my takeaway is to not stay in the problem, to refocus our attention to the solution, the silver lining, and reframing it so that we can, again, that ties into our gratitude, our mindset, what are we grateful for, how can we find, you know, the solution to the problem.
Yeah, I mean that's it. And again, that's a beautiful way of saying what I've been talking about, suffering from our pain versus growing, you know? Like that is beautiful. Yeah. Thank you, Karen, for sharing.
Welcome.
If our emotional needs were fulfilled, he goes on to say, even if our emotional needs were fulfilled by our parents and caregivers, we emerge from childhood with trust that others can give us what we need. So if we have these emotional needs that were met, we emerge from childhood thinking that, you know, others can give us what we need. So you could be, sometimes people can be too trusting, right? We can then receive love from others without distress or compulsion. Our needs are moderate. We can trust someone to help fulfill our needs while we help fulfill theirs. This provides a foundation for a lifetime of intimacy and equanimity. Yes, it does, you know. So just knowing that people who feel fulfilled growing up, you see the world as trusting. People who have not gotten their needs met growing up, you see the world as suspicious. You ever met people where they say, I don't trust none of these people. I don't trust, no. They just immediately think that the world is dangerous. And you start to wonder, why do they think everything is dangerous? Well, this is why. They think the world is dangerous because they've been taught that the world is scary, because in their homes, they experience a scary world. So therefore, the world in and of itself is somewhere where no one can be trusted. You don't even trust yourself to make good judgments. So that's what's required. Okay. Our life begins in a containing womb and then moves into an embrace. Our identity cannot grow in isolation because we are dialogical by nature. So that means that we have to have a human contact. The importance of human relationships, that is so important. Only if someone has her arms around the infant can the I am moment be endured or rather risk. So he's quoting Winnicott. I love Winnicott, by the way. He's a fantastic child psychiatrist. You guys need to check him out. He's pretty awesome. The original emotional needs of life were fulfilled in the holding environments of the womb. So he goes on to talk about, listen, at one point, all of our needs were met, right? So this creates a safe and embracing environment. This is all attachment theory and childhood growing up. If their needs are unmet, on the other hand, they may have difficulty trusting a higher power than ego or acknowledging the need for spirituality in adult life. Faith commitments call for trust in an invisible source of nurturance. And when visible source of nurturance have let us down, we are less likely to trust the invisible sources. That's interesting. So, I mean, I do find, spirituality and religious practices being a really good kind of model for attachment. So I see why a lot of people, I'm just thinking about slavery times and times where things are really hard. I can see like wanting, it could be a spiritual experience where you want to hold on to something because there's nothing else around you. Yeah, that kind of makes sense. Okay, let's move on. When we did not receive fulfillment in one or more of the 5 A's, y'all know what the 5 A's are. Where is it? Attention, acceptance, appreciation, affection, and allowing, right? When we did not receive fulfillment in one of the 5 A's, a bottomless pit was created in us, an unfulfillable yearning for the missing piece of our puzzling and airy past. Mourning in an unfulfilled childhood is painful. He's going back to this pain, the pain that we experience. We fear grief because we know we will not be able to control its intensity, its duration, or its range. And so we look for ways around it. Instead of dealing with the pain, we look for ways around it, right? But engaging with our grief, you have to grieve your childhood. Your dad wasn't there for you when you needed him to be. You have to grieve that loss. Your mom treated you poorly. You have to grieve that loss of having those 5 A's met in your life. Engaging with our grief is a form of self-nourishment and liberation from neediness. Paradoxically, to let ourselves experience our wounded feelings fully places us in the path of healthy intimacy. You have to deal with the pain, or you'll never, ever be able to have a healthy relationship. And you know what? Honestly, I think that this is why so many people turn to addictions, shopping addictions, porn addictions, substance abuse, alcohol abuse, everything to kind of numb yourself out so you can't deal with the things that are happening for you. And it's a learned ability of these defenses. The defenses are there because they protected you when you were young. But when you're an adult, I think that you have that responsibility to deal with what's going on with you head on, or it will haunt you forever. And nothing is costly and pricey, and nothing destroys a relationship more than addictions. Is this my problem? Have I been afraid to grieve what I did not get from mom and dad, and so have demanded it from partners, strangers, and innocent bystanders? I am unable to find it in myself because I have been investing all of my energy in looking for it in some place else. You're not going to get it in a Gucci belt. You're not going to get it from driving a fancy car and from all of the external things that you think can make you worthy. You're definitely not going to get it from how much money is in your bank. To retrieve the past and undo the past are the paradoxical goals in relationships. No wonder our relationships are so complex. But their complexity is not about the transactions between two adults, but the fact that such transactions ever begin. Instead, two children are tugging at each other's sleeves, shouting in unison. This is what two married couples look like to me. Two children trying to get each other's love and attention. It's so great. It's like being married means, will you be my friend? Yeah, I'll be your friend for life. Will you be everything for me? That's what two married people. And it's funny because when you bicker with each other, it's like you really do regress. You go back to like children bickering. It is really amazing how adults be regressing, bickering. This is quite fascinating. Look what happened to me when I was a kid. Make it stop. Make it better for me. In effect, We are asking an innocent bystander to repair a problem he or she has no knowledge of and little skill to repair. That's deep down inside what you're asking for in your partner. And all the time and energy that goes into that transaction distracts us from the first part of our work, repairing our own lives, which may require some work in therapy. He's telling you right now in this book that sometimes you have blind spots. And a really keen therapist will be able to look at you and will be able to connect the dots. Give you that reflective functioning. You want your reflective functioning score to be up. Okay. The code ground of our psyche is like cryogenic laboratory where our unmet needs from childhood remain frozen in its original state, awaiting healing and fulfillment, usually without revealing to us the full extent to which we felt forlorn and bereft. The path to love begins in our own past and its healing, then moves outward to relationship with others. It is frozen inside of you. He's talking about trauma and dealing with a lot of that and seeing a lot of that. I think if it's frozen, it helps to melt it away. Okay. Even if our childhood needs were met, we may need to work on ourselves as an adult. So there's no escaping it. Everybody got some stuff to work on. Even people who grow up and become adults and have healthy attachments, there's still some things that come up for you. And I can attest to that, right? Nourishment parents make sure our childhood environments are safe and soothing. And as an adults, we may keep looking for people or things that we can create that miracle. It's a miracle thing. It is a miracle. If you grew up, and I would have to say personally, like, I'm a second generation therapist. So both my parents have advanced degrees in, not to say that I'm not better than anyone else, but they had advanced degrees in child development. And my parents were in their 30s when they had me. So it's not like they were just seasoned people. My dad had a PhD. My mom had a master's. She's got 2 master's degrees in childhood development. She's a therapist too, and all of that. And my dad taught, like I do right now. So I had 2 parents that really sent me into adulthood with a secure attachment. I'm just self-disclosing that, but that doesn't mean that I don't have my issues. I still got my issues. Maybe I'm a little spoiled sometimes. I don't know. I like to get my way. I don't know. You have to ask Dr. Boyce. Boyce.
Yeah.
What are my issues?
What are your?
I said I grew up with a secure attachment, but even if you had a secure attachment, there's still some stuff that can come up for you.
You asked me a question.
But you're making a lot of noise, so people know that you're here.
Oh, I thought you had a question for me.
No, I was just saying, what you say? Look at this. Look at everybody. Look.
Is that Aisha? I see Aisha and James.
That's her face. And
James. Oh, and I know that's at the bottom. What's your name, ma'am? Wait. Wow, why are you looking at me?
You are so hilarious.
What? No. But anyway, hi everybody. How you doing?
Boys.
Oh, that's Errol. Okay, yeah. Okay, now I see. Okay.
Someone asked a question.
Okay, what's the question?
Do you and Dr. Boyce Watkins read together to continue to enhance your relationship?
No.
We do not read together.
We don't.
That would be appropriate, but he's not.
Well, we listen to
not
audio.
reading this book.
We listen to audiobooks together.
Yeah.
Sometimes I listen to your therapy stuff. Yeah. So
No, we don't.
I'm gonna walk out of here. Hello,
Okay.
everybody.
But even I have some issues. Would you not say?
Yes. That's my whole statement.
All right, just keep moving along.
Only after he was forced. Let the
Right, only after he was forced.
I gave him permission to say I have issues, but right. Okay. So the recurrent fantasy or search for the perfect partner is a strong signal from our psyche that we have work to do on ourselves. No perfect partner. But I think you find the perfect partner for yourself, even in their flaws. So that's my caveat I add to Mr. David Richo. Okay. Okay, the perfect partner is the mirage we see after crossing the desert of insufficient love. So mirages is false. It don't ever happen. Like a mirage is, like on a desert, you think, uh-oh, I'm thirsty, and that's water right there. And you get up to it and it's not water. That's the mirage that we have in relationships. We think this person is going to complete me. Y'all remember what movie was that? You complete me. What movie was that where he says you complete me? Jerry Maguire. Jerry Maguire. Yes, Jerry Maguire has you complete me. That's false. Like that is, you are not going to find a partner that's going to complete you ever. Like they need to stop making movies like that because no person is going to actually complete you. I think we need to stop with that. That's a mirage, right? Mirages happen because we lack water. That is, we lack something we have needed for a long time. They are normal, nothing to be ashamed of. We should notice them, take them as information about where our work lies, and then let them go. Because ain't nobody going to be perfect, right? If we do this, we will come across the real oasis. Nature's gift to those who keep going, who are not stopped by the mirage. Oh my goodness. I love that part. That is so beautiful because it is so normal when you're falling in love with somebody, you think the world of that person. And you start noticing all the similarities. We got this in common. We got this in common. And oh my God, you're staying up all night, talking on the phone, planning to be together, all excited about seeing each other. We know the first 12 to 18 months of a relationship when you just fall in love. You are not falling in love with the person. It is infatuation, and that's what it is, right? And I don't want to say love bombing, but it's normal to do a little bit of love bombing. Love bombing is normal. You don't want to go overboard with it because then that's a deep sense of insecurity. But it's important that beginning stages of relationship, you want to put your best foot forward. That makes sense. And you just love everything it is about each other. But after that 12 to 18 months, the real oasis is getting over the disappointment and the letdowns that will happen in your relationships. It is normal. And so many people break up with someone. There's a lot of people I work with in my client and my caseload where they're just unrealistic about relationships. Like it is normal. We should expect to just fall in love and, think think the world of this person. And it's also normal to get past the differences because eventually you're going to start noticing the differences. God, I never noticed that he scrapes his teeth when he eats. Good grief, I never really noticed he snores so loud. But golly, does he have to be talking so loud? You start noticing things. And it's just normal. It's just normal, right? But what we don't understand is that the true gift is the other side of that. That's where true love and true intimacy happens when you are able to love someone through their faults. As long as it's not toxic or some of the awful things. I mean, there's some caveats to that. I'm not saying people should stay together. Sometimes there's some things you can't deal with. But for the most part, being realistic about relationships, the true gift is those who keep going, who are not stopped by the mirage. Yet it is a given of life that nothing is permanently and finally satisfying. Despite this fact, many of us believe that somewhere there is a person or a thing that will be permanently satisfying. Such a chimerical belief and the restless, desperate seeking that follows from it can become deeply disheartening and self-defeating. In mindfulness, though, We can surrender to reality with all its impermanence and frustration. And from that position of surrendering, something wonderful, encouraging can happen. We find that we want a partner who walks beside us in the world, not one who will change its given or provide an escape hatch from them. That's the commitment. Someone who's going to be your companion, even through ups and downs. And to have that in another person is a blessing, even in their faults. We will find a pleasing balance between surrendering to the given of the fundamental unsatisfactoriness of life while maximizing our opportunity for contentment. It is our discovery of the fallacious past. He's really working his vocabulary right now. He's using SAT words here. Where was I? For unsatisfactoriness. Okay, fallacious past between the snowy peaks of disillusion and despair. From this point of view, moderate need fulfillment, experience in days or even moments, becomes satisfactory. Moderate is the key word for giving and for receiving the 5 A's: attention, acceptance, affection, appreciation, and allowing. A nonstop flow of them would be quite annoying. So if you got it all the time, if I would stop everything and just give my partner, give Boyce the 5 A's, he'd be like, lady, get out of my face. you've been up under me too long. Like, we don't need it all the time. You just need it. And if he was all in my space all the time, I'd be like, okay, I need a break. I think we need a break from each other. I love you, but I need a break. So it's okay to say that. You're not supposed to be all wrapped up in each other all the time. It's normal. You need a break from them. Our fantasy mindset makes us long for just what we would soon flee. Hence, what seems like an unsatisfactory compromise is actually the adult's best deal. The hospitable sanctuary and the generous waters of an oasis can be enjoyed for one day or many. So it's not like you're going to get your fantasy relationship 100% of the time, but sometimes you'll get it. Sometimes there'll be moments where, we actually had a really good time today. I'm going to appreciate this. Okay, you kind of got on my nerves today, but we'll try again tomorrow. This is just realistic, right? Sooner or later, they will cloy, and our hearts will long for what comes next. The desert and what lies behind it. Whatever their mystery or hardship beckon, and they cannot be evaded or renounced. Journeying is built into us, no matter how beautiful our home. The idea, it's a journey. You're always on this journey of ups and downs, right? The idea of something more or different excites us no matter how pleasing our present circumstances. Okay, so he's going on about, he's using lofty words at this point. I can skip the lofty SAT words. So lastly, here's what we're saying. As long as you hold on to wanting something from the outside, you will be dissatisfied because there is a part of you that you are not totally owning. I promise you, I don't understand. Like, I know it's great for women to pay attention to their, what they look like and all of that. But I really do wonder, with all the plastic surgery, with all the BBLs, thinking I got to do and be a certain way to look a certain way. Like, sometimes there's just never ending. Like, you always are scrutinizing yourself. Like, I'm going to feel good only when I look a certain way. Not when you look like yourself, because I promise some of these women, they don't even look like themselves anymore. Now, I do have on blush and a little bit of lipstick. And I mean, so there's, with reason, right? Not that I want to change the way I look, just look like a totally different person, because you're holding on to something on the outside. This is the materialism that I'm talking about. And that's the bottomless pit. Be content with who and what you are right now is what he's trying to say. How can you be complete and fulfilled if you believe that you cannot own this part of yourself? until somebody else does something. Are you going to be beautiful because somebody calls you beautiful? Or are you just going to be beautiful because you believe in the beauty of who and what you are? Because beauty is really what you do and how you are and how you treat people and treat yourself. That's the beauty, right? If it's conditional, it will not totally be yours. If you believe that you cannot own this part of yourself until somebody else does something, waiting on somebody else to fulfill you, and moments where you're not fulfilled by that person is conditional. If it's conditional, it's not totally yours. So we'll leave it here, page 24. Let me mark my page. I do want to come back next Sunday. I ain't doing nothing Sunday evening. But I do want to come back and probably the same time, 7:00, to talk about this book, How to Be an Adult in Relationships. Get the book, read up until page 24, so you'll be able to see what we've covered in the past. Thank you for talking. Thank you for contributing. Thank you, everybody in the chat. We got some people here. Zara. Who else is here? Khalid. Dr. Vive. Thank you, Dr. Vive, for joining us. And everybody. So I'm thinking we'll come back next week. An hour and a half. We'll probably shrink it down. Maybe not so long next time. But anyway, let me say goodbye to StreamYard, and then I'll come to Zoom later. Okay. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Dr. Alicia.
Okay. Is it ended?
Erica Badu said it best. She says, I'm an artist and I'm sensitive about my shit. And that's the truth, right? I think any artist, I'm an entrepreneur, and I could say the same thing. Whenever you are sharing your world or your art with somebody, it can be sensitive, right? You also talked about early music. I'm going to reset in a hot second, but you also talked about early music, and it was very different. It was very positive. It was uplifting. Danette Mitchell says, when I was growing up, we had ratchet music. However, in the Black community, we kept it underground and elevated positive music. This is when we owned our own radio stations and music stores. I can remember listening to a Tupac who's going to give you a little bit of ratchet, but give you something to think about. Dear Mama or Brenda Had a Baby, KRS-One. So you have a nice mix. Today's music, it's all pop that P, look at my P, suck this, bitch that. Like, there's no love music. There's no community. Like I think it affects our relationships. I think it affects how men and women relate to each other, talk to each other. I think it affects our relationships, our ability to communicate, our ability to love. Music is so powerful and influential, much like this conversation that we're having today about hip hop's damaging influence on Black women, right here on Fly Nubian Money, which we do every Monday through Friday at 1:00 p.m. Eastern. You can catch us here. And you can also get notified when we're live if you text the word Queens, QUEENS, to 87948. Again, that's 87948. You can also catch us on Spotify by searching Fly Nubian Money to take us on the go with you. Aisha, I want to come back and talk to you. Given your Nigerian background, can you share some cultural differences between the music scenes in Nigeria and the United States, particularly regarding what's allowed to be discussed on the airwaves and how it influences societal values? That was a mouthful. You might be a mute.
Sorry about that. That's such a great question. And just listening to Dr. Alicia talking about the mental, how it affects us mentally. And what you also just said, Dr. Linnea, about, the way it affects you and how it makes you feel. It's amazing to me that today as well, hip hop now has crossed over where it's now also affecting the culture back home where I'm from. I just recently had a visit back home, and I came back when I was there visiting, and some young people were talking, and I couldn't believe what came out of their mouth. And I know it's because of the hip hop culture and what they were listening to. they were literally referring to the African Americans with the N word casually. I stopped them. I said, "Do you understand that this is unacceptable?" But because of what the pop culture says, so they thought it was normal to speak like that. I was mortified and I had to correct them that please do not speak like this. It is unacceptable. Again, because the music business doesn't care. They now are spreading all over the world, especially now in Africa, where our music for us was for praise and gratitude and celebration. Now it's becoming abusive. It's becoming abusive because you're watching as they're selling these products to them and they're listening is now becoming what now they think it's okay. So when I went and I was visiting and I heard that, I literally stopped them and corrected. I said, no, we're not going to do that here. This is not what we're about, because you think it's funny or you think that is what you watch and as you're watching these videos, it is not who we are. So ladies, it is crossing over. And unfortunately, it's about money. At the end of the day, it's not about caring about who we are, that we are fearfully and wonderfully made by God and to be respected and loved and cherished. No, they just want to make money. They don't care who is damaged as this is happening. And but for me, I make sure that even when I go back and I tell my brothers back home and my nephews and nieces that they're not allowed to watch videos like that, because this is not who we are. This is not how we were raised. This is not what our parents taught us. And that we have to stay true to who we are and not listen to those music, because we know it's not edifying. It doesn't add no value to your life. It only denigrates you. And now here you are calling your brothers and sisters that are from America the N word and thinking it's normal. So it saddened me that that was happening, but that is what's happening today. Again, we have to like you said, that we should make sure that it comes from us, Athena, that we should be the one making that move. We should be the one making that difference in our own homes and making sure that we talk to our children and tell them that no, this is not part of our culture. This is something else. Somebody else is selling this to us and we're buying it. But we were not going to buy it here. I'm hoping that that is what we can do, as brothers and sisters in this space, that will make sure that we tell our children that no, this is not our culture. This is not how we're supposed to talk to each other or refer to each other, especially our women. An African woman, oh my goodness, she gave birth to the world. I said, you know how powerful you are. You give birth to the world. And now they're denigrating you with music by your own people, by your own boys and your own men, and think it's okay. It is not okay. It is not okay, because then you're allowing other people to look at you that way.
And what a lot of times what the youth, and we can say people, but mostly youth, don't realize is the verbiage, the language, the lifestyle, the drugs, the oversexualization. A lot of this stuff, the people who are rapping about it, they don't even do that. Some of these people come from 2-parent homes, good homes. They were like the life that they're rapping about, the image that they're portraying, they don't actually do in their real life. We're going to go to this video from Future talking about lean and the fact that he actually doesn't even use it. So let's cue that video.
Future regrets his influence on Juice WRLD, and the reason why will truly shock you. One of the first things that Juice WRLD told Future when they met up to make their 2018 record World on was that Future had influenced him to try lean. Juice WRLD told Vulture.com, "That's the first thing I told him." He was just like, wow. He kind of apologized. Future later reacted to this situation in an interview with Rolling Stone magazine, saying, quote, "When he told me that, I was like, oh what have I done? It really bothered me. It bothered me a lot. More than I thought it would bother me when he told me that. How many other 6th graders did I influence to drink lean? This really messed me up for a minute. It's all I could think about. Like, damn, what have I done? What have I done to other people?" Regardless of his habits, Juice WRLD was one of the best to ever do it and will be remembered as such.
And so more accountability is definitely needed. More truth is definitely needed. More authenticity is definitely needed. I saw over in the chat, some people were talking about, what about the parents? Why are parents letting them listen to this music? Listen, I'm only going to speak for myself. I was young once. My mom didn't know what I was listening to. You, as a parent, you can make sure that you listen to all the appropriate things in the car. You can put on, what do they call it? Explicit types of blocks on your child's phones. You can take the TVs out your house. They still got to go to school and their friends is listening to it. They still got to ride the bus and their friends is listening to it. They still see YouTube. Like, it's everywhere. Athena, how has music influenced you growing up? So I think I remember you saying you're 33. So you come from a different era of music than I do. So let's do that. Tell me what you're listening to right now, and then tell me how music has influenced you.
Well, I have a very eclectic musical taste. I am from the Caribbean, so obviously reggae and dancehall is a very big influence from there. I also listen to classical music. I listen to hip hop. I listen to pop. I listen to ratchet music. I'm going to sit here and be honest on the panel. I do like some of the artists that we have in question. I do listen to Cardi B. I do listen to Megan Thee Stallion. But I think the difference for me, though, is it's just entertainment for me. And because I'm not living in that lifestyle or culture, I'm not as, I guess, accessible to that.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on when you're watching the replay or re-listening to this on Spotify, because Fly Nubian Money is now on Spotify. I am Dr. Lene Javette, and today's conversation is necessary. We're going to be talking about hip hop's damaging influence on Black women. Today's conversation is, of course, sparked by the recent passing of Enchanting. And pardon me while I read this stuff, because I'm not a hip hopper, so I'm unsure. So I'm going to read this, and then I'm going to introduce our queens who are going to be having this conversation today. So we're discussing the complex relationship between Black women and hip hop, addressing themes of hypersexualization, societal pressures, body image, and the influence of drug and alcohol. With the recent passing of rapper Enchanting at just 26 years old, it highlights the challenges that Black women face in the industry. We want to acknowledge her life and music while exploring addiction and some of the horribly toxic things that come as a byproduct of hip hop music. Prior to her death, Enchanting was signed to 1017 Records in 2020 per New York's Hot 97 radio station. She appeared on 3 compilation albums before she left the label in 2023. The rising star reportedly died after being taken off life support at a hospital. In a statement to the Shade Room, a representative from her management team said the 26-year-old was suffering from withdrawals and had overdosed. She came to my house the last 4 days to get clean. She tried her best and did everything, and I did everything I could to help her. She tried, the rep told the outlet. The name of her last mixtape was called Love and Drugs. And so today we're going to be talking again about the damaging influence of Black women in hip hop. I'm joined today by there's 4 of us total, 3 amazing queens. Athena Gardner, she's a CPA and a women's wealth coach. Dr. Alicia Watkins, she's a couples coach, psychotherapist, and college professor, as well as Aisha Verzi, who's a licensed financial services provider. Let's start out with, how does the glamorization of substance abuse and music videos or lyrics affect Black women? Athena, we'll start with you.
Well, I think the glamorization of rappers and the music does affect women. Women as a group, I feel, idolize and look to other women for their style, their sense of being, and really try to emulate images of the celebrities and rappers that they see. So when it comes to the images, the hypersexualization, we often see that trickle down into our youth. I was thinking the other day, I was looking at some of the girls in middle school and high school. And I remember when I was in middle school and high school, and I was just like, oh my gosh, these ladies look so grown. You know, they look so mature the way they're dressing. And I think that hip hop and the over sexualization of Black women have a lot to do with that. I also feel as though within that, it's almost like, okay, why do we need to have to even emulate that, right? Why do I need to dress like a female rapper all the time? Like, what I would like for us to see as a group is some range, which I feel like on an individual basis we do. But as a collective, I would like to see more range, like lashes just to go to school. Like lashes, I don't even have lashes on right now, you know? So
I don't ever wear a lot. Well, just the ones that God gave me. I don't like looking like Snuffleupagus. That's my own personal opinion. That's just for me. If other people like it, I don't be hating what other people do. Just for me, I don't wear lashes. Miss Aisha, am I saying your name correctly? Aisha? Okay, perfect. So, how has music influenced your own upbringing? Not necessarily hip hop music today, but we're just talking about how music influences in general. How has music influenced you?
That's a great question, Dr. Janet. It's so nice to be here with all of you. What a privilege. Thank you so much. I'm just really just sitting out here looking at all of you and just overjoyed with just being here. So thank you for the opportunity. Yeah, music, it's amazing how, like we're talking before, music does affect you. It's incredible how the lyrics, even though you might not be thinking about it, it does affect your mood, the way you think, the way you feel about yourself. And growing up back home in Nigeria, I'm from West Africa, Nigeria, music is a huge part of our culture. We sing songs of praise, songs of celebration, and just songs of thanksgiving. But in today's world, it's so different. When I grew up, it was more of something of joy and celebration, and again, praise. And when we do that, we're laughing, we're happy, we're dancing. And it's also edifying. It edifies who you are. It celebrates who you are. It's not denigrating. It's not disrespectful. With today's kind of music, though, is so different. And I also don't listen to those music because I understand how powerful it is when those lyrics, what it does to you. But so grateful that growing up, the kind of music we listen to are the ones that uplift your spirit. Again, when you're celebrating life, you're thanking God, you're celebrating what God has done for you. So there's this joy that is not to disrespect your culture or yourself or others. That is not what we do with music. So that is what music has done for me personally, and I continue to stay on that lane till today.
I agree. Music has always been my go-to. Almost every morning I put my gospel on, so it sets the tone for my day, what I'm listening to. So my mindset is good and it's pure and I'm ready to tackle the day. When I'm frustrated or irritated, I have a playlist I play for that. When I'm feeling like my heart is broken or I want to feel in love, I have love music. So music really does take us different places. And I want to talk about that with you, Dr. Alicia. But before I do, I want to talk to the chat. What are your thoughts on the influence of hip hop on Black women? And if you're a Black man in the chat, we can just make it. What are your thoughts on the influence of hip hop on Black people, right? Our conversation is Black women, but I think it can be broader than that. What do you think about it? And if you have children, do you let your children listen to hip hop today? Dr. Alicia, can you discuss the link between the societal pressures that are amplified by the hip hop culture relative to the music that we're listening to, the risk of substance abuse, over sexualization that's coming through the music? Can you address that?
Thank you, Lene. I mean, it's such a great question. I mean, we know that the glorification of these risky behaviors in hip hop, I mean, that's really what we're talking about. Like the issue with the substance abuse. I mean, it is promoted as a coping mechanism. And although I happen to teach a class on substance abuse, and 93% of Black women have no substance abuse issue. But, for that 7% that do, it just makes you wonder, like, what's going into some of these, the disconnect between the reality and what you see portrayed in real life. Now, the issue that I have with these images is that this promotion of irresponsible alcohol use coupled with promiscuous behavior, I think has detrimental effects. It's promoting this idea, especially for women in their childbearing years, this risk of fetal alcohol syndrome, which I think is a way more common instance than we know. It poses serious health risk for infants. And so it's not just a matter of individual well-being, it's this public health issue that needs to be addressed. And I think that women need to have access to accurate information and resources to mitigate some of these risks. And I think that this unhealthy promotion can have an effect on youth and people who consume this information. I also think that it just has an impact on your mental health, of course. Some of you all kind of alluded to it, Aisha, and even you, Dr. Lene, about how the music affects your mood. It affects, how you interact with the world. So it's just interesting. My first introduction into acknowledging the influence of music on your subconscious mind in particular. I want to give a special shout out to Brother Panic. He was my initial teacher in the dynamics of subconscious mind programming, and I took his classes and all of that. And since then, I've been doing my own study on this. And I just think that we are powerful individuals, like all of us. And we create our own world through the subconscious mind. And now that you know this, you can understand how powerful music is in programming ourselves. So listening to what I would consider media-controlled messages, it gets internalized, and we start seeing ourselves in this way, and we start acting in ways where we're just running this program. It affects how we see ourselves, how we see other people, and it's played out in our daily world. So it's a simple concept of garbage in and garbage out. You are affected by the images and the messages that you receive. And I really think that the answer is just non-participation. We just need to not participate in it and instead focus our energies on things that help us achieve our God-given goals in this world. And I think if we did that, then, media controlled, and I think the industry is contingent on attention, paying attention to it, consumer driven images. If we just stop participating on it and start focusing on things that, give us life, things that are positive, that is a way for us to kind of address some of these issues.
I think that everyone so far has done a great job in hitting on the different and various things, right? So again, our topic today is hip hop's damaging influence on Black women. I think that it is the drugs. I think that it is over-sexualization. I think that it is the body image, the image of the body, right? We're seeing a lot of the surgeries that are being done. So there's the self-image. There is just various stereotypes that are being played out through the media, through the music. And then there is the desensitizing that's happening through the music, because we're saying things, we're speaking certain lyrics because it has a good beat. Molly Percocet, we're just singing it, we're talking about it. And people don't realize that what they're saying is registering, because we know that you have the power of life and death in your tongue. So when you speak things, whether you're affirming or not affirming, that's resonating in your aura. So music has a way of desensitizing us, where the word bitch becomes cool to say. We call our friends, our sister girlfriends bitch because it's desensitized. They say it in the music. Going to get BBLs, it's natural now because somebody else has it. This person got it, so I need to have it too. Media, music, messaging, marketing comes to us through those things, and it happens to Black women, and it's happening to our youth because our youth have access to social media at a much younger age, so they're seeing it, and it happens to the best of us. Can we play that clip? The clip with Nicki Minaj talking about how and or why she got her BBL.
Or and remember, social media was just beginning when I started. So I was like everybody. I was a lot of people's guinea pig. I was one of the first people to be shitted on the internet, on social media, like non-fucking stop. Every day I would go on, and it was some new story, made up story, or bad picture, or it wasn't acceptable to have surgery at all or anything. Even though, and at that time I had never had surgery. I had ass shots, which till this day I realize, even what I did, and even with me not consulting with anyone to do something like that, how insane that was. Like, it's not that you go to a doctor, a professional person. No, it's some random person.
Yeah, shorty in the Bronx.
Comes in. I was in Atlanta at the time. And actually what happened was I kept on being around Wayne and them. And at that time, Wayne, he always talking about big booties, and Wayne would have like a new chick in the studio every session. So it was always a new big booty.
Creative support. That's what I like to call it.
A new big booty there.
A muse.
Right. Actually, yes. Actually, it was. They were his muses.
You like to look to the side and see something with some ass sitting there while you're trying to come up with a line.
That's right. And
so, how can we address the pressure to portray a certain image and encourage healthy coping mechanisms? What do you think, Athena?
Well, I think we really need to take a look at ourselves, because what's going to happen is this is an industry that makes a lot of money and is not going to change their business model to accommodate taste that is not going to be profitable. And we need to take a look at ourselves, right? Because if we're waiting on the industry to change for us to make these changes, to tune out these images, then it's just not going to happen. We need to change first, so then the companies and the corporations will adjust, because they will adjust to what is profitable. I would love for hip hop and Black women to get to the level of a Adele or Taylor Swift, where they can keep all their clothes on, do their talent, and go home. But unfortunately, there is a pressure to conform. Now, the solution would be on your individual level of wanting to curate the image that you want to present in the world and be respectable. But to be honest with you, we have other options of role models in the industry, like Rhapsody, or people who are fully clothed, have positive lyrics, right? Versus, I guess, would be the Cardi B's and the Megan Thee Stallion. So I think a lot of this is also a reflection of ourselves and our human nature and what we are paying into, because, to be frank, the corporations are just going to put money behind whatever is profitable. And if you're looking at Rhapsody's albums and mixtapes versus a Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion mixtape sales and pushing that image, you can see why they're choosing to do that.
I definitely personally feel and believe that it's a setup. I cannot think of any other genre of music that is as negative, derogatory, over-sexualized, blatantly disrespectful than hip hop music. It's not in country, it's not in pop, it's not in rock. Hip hop is the only music genre that is uber super disrespectful. Dr. Alicia, I'm looking for my question. In what ways does the portrayal of Black women in the music industry affect mental health? I have to believe us listening to these lyrics, watching this play out in videos, affects us mentally.
It's oppressive. It's oppressive to see yourself in this limited way. And it's so staggering and so pervasive. There's no range of images that you see in terms of women in hip hop. And it did not used to be this way. I mean, I am so fortunate enough to be there during the birth of hip hop. It was positive. It was Afrocentric. It was, it was something that was uplifting. It told a story about what was going on around us. It was really our voice to authentically talk about what was happening here. And since this is before hip hop became controlled, right? This was just pure coming out of a very unique setting for Black people to tell their story. Now it is so ultrally controlled that all you see is Black women, and not even just in hip hop. I'm talking about Black women in media. All you see is very limiting views of yourself. And yes, I mean, just think about just think about what Nicki Minaj just said. If you remember Nicki Minaj when she first came out, she was not over sexualized. Her lyrics and stuff, she was kind of straight. She had that weird hair. Her hair was colored in a certain way. She looked really authentic. And then all of a sudden she comes out with this album. I'm like, who is this lady? This is not how she originally presented herself. So that tells you that she had a hard conversation with somebody. Clearly she did, where she had to change who and what she is in order to be successful. It's oppressive. And yes, it has an effect on your mental health. I mean, listen to what she said. She don't sound empowered in that conversation with that man. She didn't sound like she was being authentically herself. She didn't sound as if she was actually putting out music that was congruent to how she felt inside. It sounded oppressive. It sounded misogynistic. Some of the things that she was around. And, artists are very sensitive people. I don't know if you know who I went to performing arts school, and I'm in this kind of art world, but it's entertainers are very sensitive, and they can be, they feel so much of their worth is tied to the attention, the recognition that people have, because it's so personal to them. And I can't imagine not being your authentic self, putting something out that is not congruent with who you are, and then getting accolades for that, for being inauthentic, for being what someone has told you to be, therefore you can be successful. I can't imagine how terrible that feels, not only for us to see ourselves in that way, but for these artists and what they actually go through. Yes, it has an effect on your mental health. I mean, just think about putting your self-worth on how you look. So that means that you're going to be happy if someone compliments you, not on who you are as a person. Oh, you're a very great person. You're a genuine person. Yes. No, they're going to compliment you on these superficial things. And knowing how empty you might feel inside, because you're like, you know what? The world doesn't see who and what I am authentically. And I get the pressure. It's a very dynamic situation. The entertainment industry is a business, and you have to be savvy in how you operate in this business. But the impact that it has on your mental health in the end, just the depression that can come with being constrained, the anxiety that you feel because a bad picture of you, or people, what Nicki Minaj talked about, the negative comments that she got online. That is really a real thing that happened to her. In all of these things, how can you feel good about yourself and feel sound and know that you are living your life's purpose when you have all of these constraints?
Erykah Badu said it best. She says, I'm an artist and I'm sensitive about my shit. And that's the truth, right? I think any artist, I'm an entrepreneur, and I can say the same thing. Whenever you are sharing your world or your art with somebody, it can be sensitive, right? You also talked about early music. I'm going to reset. I'm in a hot second, but you also talked about early music, and it was very different. It was very positive. It was uplifting. Danette Mitchell says, when I was growing up, we had ratchet music. However, in the Black community, we kept it underground and elevated positive music. This is when we owned our own radio stations and music stores. I can remember listening to a Tupac who's going to give you a little bit of ratchet, but give you something to think about. Dear Mama or Brenda Had a Baby, KRS-One. So you have a nice mix. Today's music, it's all pop that P, look at my P, suck this, bitch that. Like, there's no love music. There's no community. Like when you want to, I think it affects our relationships. I think it affects how men and women relate to each other, talk to each other. I think it affects our relationships, our ability to communicate, our ability to love. Um, Music is so powerful and influential. Much like this conversation that we're having today about hip hop's damaging influence on Black women, right here on Fly Nubian Money, which we do every Monday through Friday at 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern. You can catch us here. And you can also get notified when we're live if you text the word Queens, Queens, to 87948. Again, that's 87948. You can also catch us on Spotify by searching Fly Nubian Money to take us on the go with you. Aisha, I want to come back and talk to you. Given your Nigerian background, can you share some cultural differences between the music scenes in Nigeria and the United States, particularly regarding what's allowed to be discussed on the airwaves and how it influences societal values? That was a mouthful. You might be a mute.
Sorry about that. That's such a great question. And just listening to Dr. Alicia talking about the mental, how it affects us mentally. And what you also just said, Dr. Linnea, about, the way it affects you and how it makes you feel. It's amazing to me that today as well, hip hop now has crossed over where it's now also affecting the culture back home where I'm from. I just recently had a visit back home, and I came back when I was there visiting, and some young people were talking, and I couldn't believe what came out of their mouth. And I know it's because of the hip hop culture and what they were listening to. They were literally referring to the African Americans with the N-word casually. I stopped them. I said, "Do you understand that this is unacceptable?" But because of what the pop culture says, so they thought it was normal to speak like that. I was mortified, and I had to correct them that please do not speak like this. It is unacceptable. Again, because the music business doesn't care. They now are spreading all over the world, especially now in Africa, where our music for us was for praise and gratitude and celebration. Now it's becoming abusive. It's becoming abusive because you're watching as they're selling these products to them and they're listening. Is now becoming what they think it's okay. So when I went and I was visiting and I heard that, I literally stopped them and corrected. I said, "No, we're not going to do that here. This is not what we're about, because you think it's funny or you think that is what you watch, and as you're watching these videos, it is not who we are." So ladies, it is crossing over. And unfortunately, it's about money. At the end of the day, it's not about caring about who we are, that we are fearfully and wonderfully made by God and to be respected and loved and cherished. No, they just want to make money. They don't care who is damaged as this is happening. And but for me, I make sure that even when I go back and I tell my brothers back home and my nephews and nieces that they're not allowed to watch videos like that. Because this is not who we are. This is not how we were raised. This is not what our parents taught us. And that we have to stay true to who we are and not listen to those music, because we know it's not edifying. It doesn't add no value to your life. It only denigrates you. And now here you are calling your brothers and sisters that are from America the N-word and thinking it's normal. So it saddened me that was happening, but that is what's happening today. Again, we have to like you said, that we should make sure that it comes from us, Athena, that we should be the one making that move. We should be the one making that difference in our own homes and making sure that we talk to our children and tell them that no, this is not part of our culture. This is something else. Somebody else is selling this to us and we're buying it. And we were not going to buy it here. I'm hoping that is what we can do, as brothers and sisters in this space, that will make sure that we tell our children that no, this is not our culture. This is not how we're supposed to talk to each other or refer to each other, especially our women. An African woman, oh my goodness, she gave birth to the world. I said, you know how powerful you are. You give birth to the world. And now they're denigrating you with music by your own people, by your own boys and your own men, and think it's okay. It is not okay. It is not okay. Because then you're allowing other people to look at you that way.
And what a lot of times what the youth and we can say people, but mostly youth don't realize is the verbiage, the language, the lifestyle, the drugs, the oversexualization. A lot of this stuff, the people who are rapping about it, they don't even do that. Some of these people come from 2-parent homes, good homes. They were like the life that they're rapping about, the image that they're portraying, they don't actually do in their real life. We're going to go to this video from Future talking about lean and the fact that he actually doesn't even use it. So let's cue that video.
Future regrets his influence on Juice WRLD, and the reason why will truly shock you. One of the first things that Juice WRLD told Future when they met up to make their 2018 record World on was that Future had influenced him to try lean. Juice WRLD told Vulture.com, "That's the first thing I told him." He was just like, wow. He kind of apologized. Future later reacted to this situation in an interview with Rolling Stone magazine, saying, quote, "When he told me that, I was like, oh what have I done? It really bothered me. It bothered me a lot. More than I thought it would bother me when he told me that. How many other 6th graders did I influence to drink lean? This really messed me up for a minute. It's all I could think about. Like, damn, what have I done? What have I done to other people?" Regardless of his habits, Juice WRLD was one of the best to ever do it. It will be remembered as such.
And so more accountability is definitely needed. More truth is definitely needed. More authenticity is definitely needed. I saw over in the chat, some people were talking about, what about the parents? Why are parents letting them listen to this music? Listen, I'm only gonna speak for myself. I was young once. My mom didn't know what I was listening to. You, as a parent, you can make sure that you listen to all the appropriate things in the car. You can put on, what do they call it? Explicit types of blocks on your child's phones. You can take the TVs out your house. They still got to go to school and their friends is listening to it. They still got to ride the bus and their friends is listening to it. They still see YouTube. Like, it's everywhere. Athena, how has music influenced you growing up? So I think I remember you saying you're 33. So you come from a different era of music than I do. So let's do that. Tell me what you're listening to right now, and then tell me how music has influenced you.
Well, I have a very eclectic musical taste. I am from the Caribbean, so obviously reggae and dancehall is a very big influence from there. I also listen to classical music. I listen to hip hop. I listen to pop. I listen to ratchet music. I'm going to sit here and be honest on the panel. I do like some of the artists that we have in question. I do listen to Cardi B. I do listen to Megan Thee Stallion. But I think the difference for me, though, is it's just entertainment for me. And because I'm not living in that lifestyle or culture, I'm not as, I guess, susceptible to that. I think what happens, especially with children, or depending on the environment, if your environment is conducive already to poverty, to drugs, to baby mama, baby daddy culture, the things that the music is promoting, I think it makes you more susceptible to fall into the influence and the trappings of the music more so than if you're not. That's just not what my lifestyle or upbringing was about. This music, what I will say is I've definitely seen a stark negative contrast to what we're listening to now. Even though I cherry pick which songs I listen to, I remember I was listening to a Sexy Red song and I was like, wow, are we really getting that descriptive, like sexually and body parts and all of that? Are we really going to that level to talk about, buttholes and different kind of diseases and, not caring about love or anything? I just want the D and that type of stuff. So yeah, I think it's getting worse. I don't think, and to me, there's a difference between artists' creativity and you just trying to be like as nasty and violent and raunchy as possible. What I do like about Megan Thee Stallion is that even though her lyrics depending on what you listen to, might be questionable as well. There is an artistry there. There's a rhyme scheme there. There's a flow. There's wordplay there. I can appreciate that versus it really looks like with some of the artists, Sukihana, you're just picking somebody off the street that can, a lot of these artists aren't even writing their own lyrics. It's a whole other thing as well. You're just picking somebody off the street, putting them half naked and be like, all right, wrap this and like package that product to us.
Thank you so much for that. If you're just tuning in, this is Fly Nubian Money. You can catch us Monday through Friday at 1:00 p.m. Eastern. If you text the word Queens, QUENS to 87948, you can also get notified so that you know when we go live every Monday through Friday, 1:00. If you miss us live, you can also catch us on Spotify. Make sure that you search for the word Fly Nubian Money and you can find us there. You can also get free resources, courses, and more if you go to the link down there, flynubianmoney.com. Thank you so much to everybody who is here. Thank you to my queens on the panel and those of you over in the chat. If you have any questions or you would like our opinion on anything, this is the time to throw it over in the chat and we will try to get to your questions. Aisha, you actually brought up a good topic when you were talking about how the American music, if you will, is spreading over into the continent. We see a trend where women are influenced by hip hop, often referring to themselves with negative and or derogatory claims. You said you're starting to hear the N-word, you're starting to hear different things. Were these types of conversations, wordplay, usage over in that area before hip hop music, or would you say American hip hop music has influenced that change?
Definitely, the culture has influenced that change. That was something that I was never privy to growing up back home. As a matter of fact, a lot of the words that they use are foreign to me. I was like, what does that mean again? I have to actually find out what it means because that is not kind of language we use back home. And we still don't. Anyway, my part of where I'm from, but the youth are the ones that are now using that. The older people my age, we don't talk like that, or we don't even know what those things mean or those words mean, because we were not raised that way. And the reason those words, I think, are not becoming mainstream again is because definitely pop music, the music that we have from here, some of the young ones that come to school here, they study here, they go back home, they take it with them, and then now watching it from YouTube or going online, they can have easy access to it, and then they watch it over and over again because the beats are beautiful. Because as Afro people, we have such incredible talent when it comes to music and the beat, but the question is the words that we use. We never spoke those kind of words before. The word with the N-word, I learned about it when I came to the United States many years ago, but of course now that I'm here for many years, now I hear it more often. So it saddens me that before it was very rare, but now it's becoming mainstream back home. It's like, wow, this is unacceptable. And do you know that as we were driving, when I was back home visiting just a few months ago, there was a bus that drove by as we were driving, and literally the company name was with the N-word spelled Nigga. I said, do they know what that means? Do they understand what it means? But I think because they think it means something good, something positive, because that is how they understand it back there, thinking we live in such a flashy life, it's fun. The only part that you will never see is the part that is derogatory, meaning the showing your body and your parts. That is not allowed. They will not allow you to show that. In the northern part of Nigeria, you can't see that common, like showing body parts naked. You're not allowed to do that. They will not allow that. But in some other parts of Nigeria, they might do that because they're a little bit more, we'll say, traveled. They're more well-traveled. But in my part, they will not show that. You have to see that underground. Like one of the comment was made, that you do that underground. We know these things happen. We understand it, but it is not allowed to be mainstream. So when I saw that bus pass by, and I know it's because they don't understand the ramification or the weightiness of what that meant, because they thought when they see the pop music, that it's normal. I think that's what the way they like to live their life. They're happy, they're enjoying themselves, not knowing that, no, for us, it's an insult. Let's not use those words or put it on our buses to say that's our company's name. So really, it's truly becoming a problem. When I went, I was like, wow, this is interesting. This is not what we're used to. But I'm grateful, though, in that we don't have it on mainstream media back home where you can watch them showing casually girls doing things that are inappropriate or too overly sexualized. That is not acceptable. Up till today, that is not something you can see if you go back home and watch TV. Not acceptable. So I'm grateful that we still have that.
I wish we had that here. Dr. Alicia, so I'm going to make sure I set myself up for this question right. So it says, are there cultural stigmas within the Black community that might make it acceptable for what we're seeing and hearing? Because a lot of times when we're watching content or we're listening to songs or music, RJ, I am going to get to your question. I just want to ask Alicia this question. I'm going to come to your question right next. We're watching, we're listening, we're hearing. And then when we have a conversation like this, sometimes you hear somebody say, let people do what they want to do. The younger generation used to do it. The N word is R word. It's okay if I want to call somebody B. Are those cultural stigmas in our community that make those things okay? Like, why do we do that? Why do we say it's okay? It's not a big deal. If that's what they want to do, that's the younger generation. We listen to Luke. Like, why do we do that? Or what is that?
Okay, yeah. Let me put a pin in that question real quick, because that video with Future, I mean, he felt really guilty. I want to comment on that because he really felt guilty, and I wonder what he's doing about it. Like, when you realize and you look back at your behavior and you see how someone lost their life because of how powerful you are in influencing other people, what is Future doing right now to change that? Like, that's my question. That's my challenge to all of us. Like, we are powerful people and we have an impact on the people around us. And in a lot of ways, in a macro level, these artists have a huge influence on the public. So now that you know this, now that Future know this and other artists know this, like, what are they doing? Like, I challenge all of us, including these artists, to really think about what to do with that guilt, because feeling guilty is appropriate. That makes sense. But to get over feeling guilty is to right the wrong. So my question is, what are you going to do about that? So I love that clip right there, because he was really, you could see the guilt in his face. Also, a thing that I agree with you. Yeah, these songs are so catchy. The music and the beats and all of that, it's like you can really get down. Like, there's a lot of artistry that comes into hip hop music. It's creative. It's something you have never heard before. But if you stop and listen to the lyrics that's behind the really great beats and the musical part of it, you start realizing, oh my goodness, how could you not be affected by these lyrics? And when you stop and think about it, then you can have a nice conversation about how it has an effect on you, which really leads into Dr. Lene, your question is that and also the question from RJ. I see his question in there. Like, with my children, I'm realistic. I understand that I cannot cut them off from society, right? I can put limits on what the type of information they consume, but I am realistic in knowing that I can't stop them from listening to it. So if I see my children, any one of my children, listening to lyrics that is incongruent with our values, I have a conversation with them about it. I say, what do you think about what that person just said? And I'll stop. It's a teachable moment for me and for them to be able to say, okay, what do you think about that? Like, tell me what you think. And if parents have that conversation with our children, that's how you fight it, because it's not going to have an impact on your subconscious mind if you are consciously, on a conscious level, thinking about your thinking, thinking about what's coming into you. And if you have a conversation with teenagers and all consumers of this music, they will tell you, they will say, I think that's really terrible. Good grief, I can't believe this person treats themselves that way. If anything, as parents, raising the question, this video that we're doing right here on YouTube. It's just raising awareness of these concepts. Have a conversation with other people. What do you think about this? Is this who and what we are? Have you noticed that our images are controlled and seen and very derogatory? What do you think about the misogynistic perspective in the lyrics of music? All rap music. I have yet to see a lot of it that's promoted in media. The lyrics of those music, it's hatred toward women. I mean, it really is. And internalized misogyny is what we see. A lot of rap artists, female rap artists, just have this sort of hatred that you are just this one note. And having these types of conversations is how we combat all of this cultural stigma that you're talking about.
Great. Thank you so much. RJ, so RJ's question was, my question is, do you think younger folks in my generation should be encouraged to listen to music that my parents were raised on? Absolutely. Yes. I think that there is something in passing down music from generation to generation. One, you don't lose, right? If I talk to somebody right now, I'm like, who is Luther Vandross? They won't know. Like, y'all don't know who Luther Vandross is? Y'all know who the five, like, have you watched the 5 Heartbeats? Like what do you understand about music? The other thing is they're listening to this music today, and they don't even know that they're remakes. Like they're what do they call it? What is it called when they samples? They're samples. Yes, they're sampling old music. So this song that you're grooving to that you think is the stuff, that's from like 10, 15, 20 years ago. So to have a good understanding of music, but also old music is old music. You can learn something. You're going to hear something different. You're going to feel something. So yes, I do think that. And then the other question from Danette, how do we fight against negative rap music as a community without being accused of practicing censorship or stifling an artist's creativity or messing with someone's money? Athena, how would you like to answer that question?
How do we fight against negative rap music as a community without being practicing or messing with someone's money? Listen, money is going to go where it finds value and where money is a reflection of people and their values. So we can't control messing with somebody's money. What we can control is, as a people, what we decide to do. There are artists, R&B artists, rap artists, hip hop artists that push a positive message, that have positivity, that does not get as much shine. I know when I was attending A, B, and C, D1 was an artist that was there and that is doing a lot of positive things. Rhapsody is another artist that is doing a lot. So it really is a reflection of us as a people. And that's why I said we have to take accountability for what we indulge in and promote when. So if we were to say as a group, you know what? We are only going to support artists that have positive messages and images. We are only going to support artists that reflect certain music, and we're going to put our streaming time and our dollars behind that. Guess what these record companies would do? They would switch it up real quick. They would switch it up so fast. You'd be like, how did they even do that? Right? Now, every once in a while, artists will break through on creativity. So I'm even thinking of an artist like Missy Elliott. Such a huge Missy fan. I'm going to see her on tour next month, by the way. So I'm really excited about that. Busta Rhymes, okay? And not to say that they didn't have content that was salacious, because Get Your Freak On is definitely salacious. 1 Minute Man is definitely salacious, but it was not on the level of the, intense, graphic, sexual nature that we have now. What I do miss about hip hop is more so when what things were implied or innuendo. So even if you liked a song, unless you were of that age or you knew what that was, it kind of went over your head. Like some of the songs I listened to from back in the day. So like I was listening to Mariah Carey's Honey. If you listen to the lyrics, I'm like, oh my God, this song is totally about X, Y, and Z. But I didn't know because I was a child, but maybe it was good that it was innuendo. So the adults knew what it was, but the kids didn't. So I think we need to merge back to that. And I think we need to put our focus and attention on artists that we support as a community. But like I said, this issue is a community issue, and we have a hard time galvanizing behind anything. So until we galvanize in that way, we'll continue to be oppressed.
I like that. Aisha, what music are you listening to today? What kind of music do you listen to?
I listen to spiritual music.
Okay. What kind of music? Do you have children?
Yes, I do.
What kind of music do your children listen to? Do you let them listen to hip hop? Do they listen to hip hop?
No, I don't let them listen to hip hop music. My son does listen to rap. He likes Kendrick Lamar and some of the artists in that genre. So but I talk to him about it. We talk about it. I said, so what kind of lyrics are you listening to? What are the words? And sometimes he will laugh about it and tell me, yeah, this is, but I say, well, I hope that you understand that music does affect you. So be careful what you listen to. But I'm like Dr. Alicia. I know that they will be exposed at school. I am very realistic about it. It's just to have that conversation consistently about that. But in my house, I listen to Christian music and everything, and they make fun of me. Oh, Jesus, because they make fun of me all the time, but that's okay. But they understand that that's important to me, that I value what I listen to. And they pick it up. They listen at home. They're hearing that, the word of God is important. And as you're listening, because I say we are in this world, but not of this world. As you listen to this, it's going to happen, but know also who you are and what you're about. So that way you have that balance. So you're not off. But for me personally, I listen to, really spiritual music. That's what I love. I used to love country music and the old hip hop, Luther Vandross and all those people, Michael Jackson. But now that I'm older, it's just Christian music that I listen to and allow them to listen to their music. My daughter, on the other hand, doesn't listen to any music. She's 12 years old. She doesn't have no iPhone, none of that. She doesn't listen to any music. She just does her little young girl stuff, and that's it. She doesn't know any of these artists. She doesn't know any of them because we just don't listen to those artists here. So that's I think I'm listening to right now.
It's almost, and we're almost in a place where you can't listen to music, but we know you're not going to listen to music. We know you're going to listen to music. We know you're going to go out and enjoy yourself. We know that there's going to be a variety of different musics. And we know that as parents, we have some level of control over the music that they listen to for a small period of time, because they will eventually not be under our rules, not be under our house, and they will listen to the music. They will see the videos. They will see the BBLs. They will hear about the drugs. They will see it. It will be pushed down their throat. It's inevitable, right? Dr. Alicia, what would you say to do, or what advice would you give to someone, whether they're a young person or an adult, who does not want the trauma of the music, of the visuals, of the words, of the negativity, of the misogyny? How do we operate and live and function in a world where it's just around us everywhere we go?
Yeah, I'm not certain about the trauma of listening to that music, but I do think that I think energy goes where your attention is. And I think that you just get in tune with who and what you are. You didn't ask me what kind of music I like. I enjoy like medicine. I listen to a lot of medicine music because I like to spend times with Native and Indigenous populations because I think they got it right. And I incorporate that into my life. Like everything around me has a symbolic meaning of something that I want to cultivate in myself and bring out into the open. I mean, I do believe that all of us are gods. We're all gods. We all create. All of us, especially women, are the wonderful creators. And we can plant the seed on how we we can plant the seeds in our life today about how we want our world to be. And you have to make an agreement, with yourself. So you make an agreement that, you're going to surround yourself with things and ideas that reflects who and what you are. And, I think that we have to keep those things in mind because it works. It can't not work because we know it works. If it didn't work, there wouldn't be so much attention placed on controlling the minds of Black people. You don't have to really care, who cares about what we do, as long as they control these images about how we are seen. These images are seen. We got to keep in mind, this is an election year too. How many hip hop artists do you think they're going to lean on to come out and tell us who to vote for and who not to vote for? I mean, we know that it's powerful, and the music is powerful. I mean, think about like Bob Marley. Remember when Bob Marley got all into political things? I mean, he was dangerous because he had the eyes of the masses and the ears of the masses, and he used his platform to talk about social issues. I mean, there's such beauty and such comfort in music. I mean, even in the civil rights era, music was so important in captivating and catching the feelings of what everybody was going through. So it is extremely powerful. And we have to understand how powerful that is, and just use your brain. I mean, have some critical thinking skills. I mean, we have in this video laid out the formula. We have laid out the theories. So now you can listen to this and go on without your life and see how the data fits what we've talked about today, how these images are the controlling images of Black men and Black women. I mean, the stereotypes of Black men is also portrayed in this. And I don't know what that feels like for men. We don't have any men here, but maybe they could, weigh in on this. How does it feel for them to be able to see themselves this way? I know how it feels to see my husband and my son portrayed in this way that has nothing to do with who and what they really are. So, I mean, I don't even know if that answers your question, but that's kind of what I had on my heart to talk about, about how we can take control. I mean, the thing is that so many of us I get it. I totally get it. We got to get up. We got to go to work every day. We got life things, adulting things happening in our life. How much time do we have to stop and to think and to reflect? Not very much. And maybe that's the rat race of it all. Like, we're trying to put food on the table and we're living, all of us are living our lives and have issues that we have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. We don't have time to sit and protest, what's going on with us. But, I think we owe it to ourselves to give ourselves self-care and to really stop and think at some point to focus on what we want in our lives. And it's right there in our grasp. We can do and become anything that we want to do and become. So,
all right. So I'm going to go back to this comment from Sela Saint, and it says, "You can't call yourself." Actually, I'm going to read a couple of them. Let's be clear: hip hop is a whole counterculture. Rap is the derivative, commercialized musical genre people are complaining about. But the distinction between hip hop music and rap needs to be made.
So true.
You can't call yourself fly and demonize hip hop as a whole at the same time. It's very hypocritical when the word fly came from hip hop culture. So let me just address that.
Right.
First of all, nothing is ever demonized. We're not demonizing hip hop culture, the hip hop culture or rap. We're saying be accountable, be responsible for what you're saying and what you're doing as an industry, because it matters, right? It counts. If you're talking about Molly Percocets and you're making it a glamorized thing and you're then turning around and feeding that to the Black community, that's not what hip hop means. That's not what it started as. That's what hip hop started as and what it meant when it started before it became commercialized has changed. And what it has turned into is not acceptable. So it's not demonizing, it's holding accountable, which for some reason Black people have a hard time doing. When something is wrong, we need to say that this is wrong. We need to say, treat us better. We need to say, make better music for our children, or we need to take our dollars and go spend money somewhere else. So demonizing, holding somebody accountable is not demonizing. It's saying, I see you, respect us, respect the culture, respect Black people. Okay, so just wanted to be clear on that. We have 2 minutes. So we're going to make this really, really quick. We're going to go around the room very quickly, tell people where they can find you, how they can support you, and then we're going to go ahead and get out of here. We'll start with you, Aisha.
Thank you, Dr. Lene. You can reach me at aisha@rverzi.com. That's my name, Aisha the letter R, Verzi, VIRZI.com. Or I'm also on IG at Aisha Verzi, one word, GFI, which is Global Financial Impact. That's my where you can reach me. Thank you.
Awesome. What about you, Dr. Alicia?
Oh, okay. I'm unmuted. Okay. Hey, everybody. My name is Dr. Alicia. If you're ready to take control of your life, you can reach out to me, make some changes in your life. You can contact me at coachingwithdralicia.com. I work with couples. I also work with individuals and families. You can fill out my intake and I will reach out to you. If you want to follow me on social media, the best platform is Instagram at Coaching with Dr. Alicia.
Great job. And last but not least, Miss Athena Gardner.
Hi, everyone. It was so lovely to contribute to this discussion today about hip hop. My name is Athena Gardner. I'm a CPA and women's wealth coach. I help women level up financially. If you're a woman and you're interested in doing that, you can find me at wewealthwomen.com, on all social media at wewealthwomen, and listen to me on the We Wealth Women podcast on Apple, Spotify, and iHeart.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am Dr. Lene Javette. I am a monetization strategist as well as a business coach. I help Black service-based entrepreneurs who package and sell their expertise to brand their brilliance and triple their revenue. This is Fly Nubian Money. I'm going to say it again, Fly Nubian Money. And you can catch us at flynubianmoney.com if you are interested in getting some free financial resources, courses, or other things that are over there. If you want to be notified when we are online live every Monday through Friday at 1:00 p.m. Eastern, you can text the word Queens, QUEENS, to 87948, and you will be notified when we are live. You can also go to Spotify and search for Fly Nubian Money if you would like to listen to us on the go. Today has been a great day. We always appreciate you guys for tuning in, giving us your feedback. And you know what? Today I'm going to give a special shout out to our producers that do the stuff on the back end, that bring up the slides and make sure that your questions come up on the screen. So we want to give a shout out to our actual production team as well. But again, thank you so much for tuning in on today. We will see you guys tomorrow. Remember to stay blessed, be Black, and be one. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Demons through life and how you can work through these things. Remember when I was mentioning to you all that undiagnosed, untreated trauma is, in my view, the greatest impediment to Black wealth, because to build economies, you need trust, and traumatized people traumatized people cannot trust very well. Traumatized people also can't even trust themselves. They don't come through for themselves as well as they could otherwise, because when you have all these extra emotions you're carrying around, this extra baggage, it really makes it difficult for you to reach your fullest potential and become the person that you're supposed to be. So this is one of the reasons why I think even with our kids, we want to work very, very hard to help them shape their identities and you know, at an early age, so that they don't have these impediments that keep them from becoming their very best selves, right? So I personally think even things like racism, I know that racism in Kentucky, growing up as a Black kid in Kentucky, really sort of gave me a weird inferiority complex that I was constantly fighting, where I would be shadow boxing. I'd be fighting battles that didn't even exist, because I was so traumatized by this idea that I was going to be treated differently just because I was Black, you know. And I know that even as I got older, there would be situations I would walk into where I didn't feel comfortable, or I was dealing with all these excess emotions that kind of blocked me from being able to really just do my thing and to react to things in the right way, in a measured way. You know, it's like when I was teaching at Syracuse University, I remember dealing with white kids, and it, you know, sometimes conflicts would emerge because maybe I'd get offended by something somebody said or whatever, instead of me just dealing with the issue. Now, I think that we might have, speaking of dealing with the issue, are we back? Do we have audio?
Yes, I have audio. I figured it out.
Okay, great. All right, very awesome, very awesome.
Okay.
All right, so So, babe, why don't you tell them who you are, what you do? I assume most of you all know this is my wife, Dr. Alicia Watkins, and I'm going to mention this really quickly. My wife is a not just a therapist. She is a therapist that trains other therapists, so she's really good at what she does. Also, she is, and I got to give props to the black woman next to me. I hope that's okay. She is one of the few, a very small percentage of PhDs. First of all, only less than 1% of the population has a PhD. And that percentage is even lower when you talk about people that look like us. But then even beyond that, a small percentage of PhDs become full professors at a university, right? So she's really rare in her field. She's one of the best around. I watch her every day in terms of the fact that she listens to therapy trainings just for fun. I've seen her read books hundreds of pages long on the subconscious mind. So she's really a great partner in terms of being able to understand what's really happening with our mindset and our money. So with me saying all that, babe, why don't you tell them
Look at
who you are, what
you.
you do, and everything else? Because I have to lay it out there. I want to lay it out there because I don't want people, because there are a lot of people on the internet who sound good but don't know what the hell they're talking about. And I know you put in 20 years of work, 30 years of work into this stuff, right? So to me, I think there's a difference between somebody who has been studying something for 20 or 30 years versus somebody who just got up one morning and decided to start a podcast, and so because it really can cause you, it makes the difference between getting good information and bad information, or scientifically proven information versus just something that came off somebody's hip. So anyway, I'll let you go ahead and take over from here. Why don't you tell them about what you do and everything else?
Yeah, my name is Dr. Alicia, and I am a social worker. I like to present myself as a social worker first because that's my background in my training, and I work as a professor in the Department of Social Work at a nice institution. So that's what I do. I do train other adults who want to change their career and become a social worker, many of them, and I also do a lot of supervision for individuals who want to get their license. So I'm a licensed therapist, and so I help sign off on other individuals who have completed their degree and they also want to become a therapist, a licensed therapist as well. So that's some of the things that I do. And I also have my own private practice, and I do a lot of work, particularly with a lot of your students' voice, but also some other people as well. So I work with families, I work with couples, I work with individuals who have these demons attached to them. I love this whole, what is it? You said financial demons
Yeah,
that you
financial
guys talked
demons.
about today.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So,
yeah. Go ahead,
mhm.
please. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I think I love that whole concept. And I'm not going to say demon in my practice, but I mean, that's essentially what we're doing. We're how do you get rid of demons? Like what is it, The Exorcist? I
Mhm.
should be like the priest and the exorcist to get rid of the demons inside of you. So I love
Yeah,
that. I love that whole
yeah. Well,
concept.
yeah. Well, let me lay this out. I don't think I've never seen that term financial demons used in any other setting in any textbook or anything. But but that's the goal of the Black Business School and our financial therapy department is we're not here to just simply replicate what's already been studied. We want to go deeper. We want, we're the black wealth, the black wealth surgeons, of America, in the sense that, to solve a serious problem like the racial wealth gap, you really need to do that surgery. You need to do that specialist focal, very, very deep focused specialization that's going to allow you to figure out from a nuanced fashion, like what's really happening here, right? So the term financial demons is basically something, or you can call them money demons, either one, whatever you want to call them. It basically comes from any fears or anxieties or negative beliefs about money that can really undermine and sabotage your financial thinking. Now, I want you guys to give me a yes or no. Would you say that there are money demons in the Black community? Do you think that there are fears when it comes to money that plague us, anxieties, just stress that comes when it comes to money? Are there negative beliefs that hold us back? And also, the thing about these psychological barriers is that they might come from past experiences. I want you to think about the past experiences that you've had or that you've seen other people have that may affect their decisions when it comes to money. Social pressures like keeping up with the Joneses, following whatever you saw them do on BET, ingrained beliefs. Do you think that there are any money demons that relate to ingrained beliefs, maybe cultural baggage or social norms or generational curses that relate to money that keep us broke, that keep us struggling. And the thing is that here's the thing about a money demon. A money demon, it can show itself in the form of stress, poor financial decisions, or maybe even avoidance of financial responsibility, right? For example, maybe the guy who would love to get married and have children, but he doesn't because he's afraid that he cannot provide for anybody other than himself. Hey, give me a guess if you've seen that before, right? So I want to kind of dig in and what's in just a point of confession. I know my wife she always goes too deep into stuff like that. So I don't want you talking about me, but I'm gonna confess a financial demon I had about marriage. When I was 28, I met a nice lady who was older than me, who was financially secure, and I did not pursue the relationship because I said I'm broke. I only I only make $1,000 a month, and she was making probably $10,000 a month, and it made me feel very awkward. She had her own house and a nice car and all that, and it made me just feel like, gosh, this is not. This is not cool. And I don't think that was her at all. That was really me. Now, mind you, I'm glad I didn't marry her or date her or anything because I got to marry you. But still, like, I think little financial demons like that are things that we kind of overlook in terms of sort of seeing how our relationship with money shapes how we make decisions. So let me ask you this, babe. Based on what I said about financial demons, in your practice as a therapist, do you see a lot of money demons pop up in terms of maybe fears or anxieties or negative beliefs about money that may sabotage the thinking of the clients that you see and things like that? Or what in your experience as a therapist, I know you can talk about individual cases, and I don't want you to do that, but how often does that come up?
Well, financial demons is and other types of demons, we can take it in terms of your thoughts. That's what gets you into my office. It's the results. It's how it shows itself. And that's when people tend to be like, okay, I need to seek some help because I can't function every day. The stress is so overwhelming that I can't continue on with what's happening in my life. And so when it starts to become overwhelming, it's the consequences of attaching yourself to these financial demons. It's an attachment that you have to them. And it's a thought process. And it's interesting because with financial demons, the more you feed it, the bigger it gets. And you feed it in two ways. The first way you feed your financial demons is by avoiding it. Is by just saying, you need to open up your credit card bill and you need to look at what you spent last month, which is what we're going to do after the month of May. It's crazy, right? You know that you have all of these issues that you need to deal with and you're avoiding them and you're not addressing them. And so what happens is that short term, you feel a relief, but long term, it ends up getting worse. So that's how the financial demons grow. Number one, by avoiding. And the second way financial demons grow is by fixating yourself on what you don't have and comparing yourself to others and say, I don't have this, I can't do this. It's this rumination that you have in your head about what you can and cannot get, what you think that you think. It's what you think that you cannot have. And that's the second way you feed these demons. These demons actually are energy that lives off of you. It attaches itself to you and it grows based on your fears.
Okay.
It's like the movie It. You ever see the movie? I love the movie It because really it is a perfect dramatization of what happens inside of us. You have to remember, ain't no devil in terms of how I see it in my work and how I see life in general. There is nothing outside of you. There is no devil. There is no demon. The real demon is your thoughts. And if you look at the movie It is a representation of what happens inside of all of us when we start feeding this demon. And that clown, it got bigger and better. It fed into their insecurities and it grew until one point in this movie. And it's when they stop and they turn around and they face that clown and they start beating that clown up and they start attacking it. And that's when the clown shrinks down into nothing and just goes away. It's the same horror film. All the horror films that we have is nothing but how something gets attached to you. But Hollywood makes it seem like these scary people are doing something to you. There's nothing outside of you that's against you, really, other than your mind. And I really do mean it in terms of racism, white supremacy, believing that the white man is all that and they got everything and they're the desirable people. That's mind control. That's them feeding us the demons of this other thing is better than we.
Wow. Okay. So, so one of the things I'm gonna lay out a theory here. One of the theories I have is that based on what you're saying and based on, movies like It and stuff like that, or maybe the movie Smile. You and I saw the
Smile,
movie
yeah.
Smile, which, Smile's a really creepy movie where basically, people, you would witness somebody like doing something crazy, like cutting their own throat with a big smile on their face, and they'd be doing this. And it was a real creepy thing. And what we realized when we saw this movie was we said, "Oh, this movie is really about trauma. It's about how trauma is contagious and how that causes us to, that traumatized people can traumatize other people, and it becomes almost like a virus, right? So it almost seems like with money demons, one aspect of the money demon concept is that you're really also talking about, in my opinion, these preconceived beliefs that people have that really come from these generational curses that are passed down, right? Or perhaps a money demon might be a trauma that you experience because somebody financially traumatized you. Let me give you an example. I talk about this a lot in my book, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. When you loan money to somebody that you trust and it's your cousin and you give them your last few dollars that you had stacked up to pay the rent or the mortgage, and your cousin just, ghosts you or disappears and doesn't want to pay you back. And then every conversation becomes awkward, after that. They yell at you and cut you out when you ask for your money back. And then, so at the end, you lose your money and you lose a loved one. That's very traumatic. And I think that can become a demon, because the way I see that demon manifest is people, they transform. It's like the demon possesses you now. Right? You used to be Mr. Loving and trusting, and I want to help everybody. Then you become, this is why I don't loan money to relatives. I don't care. I don't care what's going on with you. I almost feel like that's a transformation, right? Almost like a demon possessing you. I mean, what do you think, babe?
Yeah, well, I mean, I just don't recommend people loan money to anybody, really. I think that you should, if someone is in a dire situation and they really need money, you probably should just think about what you're comfortable parting ways with. What's an amount? All of us right now should think about, okay, what amount of money can I part ways with where it's not going to make a big difference to me? And that's how you need to think about working with people who are close to you in terms of money. Just give them the money. Just say, enjoy yourself. I hope everything is okay, because listen, when you start, you loan somebody money and you see them walk around with a new pair of shoes on, it's always going to create a dynamic. It's going to be like, okay, so this person can't give me back my money, but they can buy a new pair of shoes. It's always, I recommend just try to avoid loaning somebody money anyway. But think about that. Think about how you feel when you have worked hard and you have been successful, and there's other people in your family who's not been successful. I mean, that's also a money demon as well, because there's this guilt that comes that you feel like survivor guilt. And you have made decisions and you have decided to structure your life in a way where you have success, but you don't understand that you worked really hard for it. It's not luck that got you where you are. It's, for many of us, it's hard work. And you start looking around at everybody else and you're successful and other people aren't successful. I mean, that's exactly, those thought process is also can be a financial demon as well, because you think, why me? Why am I so successful and other people aren't? So that, and you see it with a lot of celebrities, and definitely you see it with a lot of, especially when you talk about athletes who grew up in the neighborhood where it was a lot of poverty, and they become successful and they bring all their friends along. Now, it's okay to deal with it that way as long as you have good boundaries there. But it's other people who need to work just as hard as you. And they also need to, also show and prove that they have this, this ability to be able to come up with you. So I think it's beautiful to come up, bring everybody who's available and who's willing to do the work, but you still have to do the work, and there's no substitute for that.
Well, it's funny, and I think this is a good opportunity for you and I to see things from different perspectives. First off, when you said use that word recommend, like I recommend people do this.
I
One
do
thing I
recommend.
always,
That's just
one
my
thing I,
recommendation.
well, no, no, one thing, one thing I always tell everybody is I don't give financial advice. I don't, because you have to have a license for that. But then also, I don't want to tell you what to do. I'd rather establish a framework for you to use to make decisions. And I want you to just make sure when it comes to taking risk, because everything's risky. Money's risky, love is risky, trusting people is risky. And where I believe where I find that people tend to be the most upset, at least I am. I know the times I'm most upset is when I was taking a risk I didn't know I was taking a risk with. I was going into something where I didn't know what it was. It's like if you're dating and you're expecting a relationship to lead to marriage, and the other party thinks it's a one night stand, then the problem is not so much whether or not a one night stand is better than a long term relationship. The problem is that there was a misunderstanding. People didn't know what they were getting into, and I bring that up because when I think about loaning money is an important part of a functioning economy. You have to loan money for an economy. If the banks all stop loaning money tomorrow, the entire US economy would crash in a way that was permanently damaging for the next 40, 50 years. Like if all the banks just said, we quit, we scared, we don't want to loan money to nobody because y'all don't be paying nobody back. Um, the economy would not function anymore. You have to have lending. Whenever you look at wealthy families, when we were talking about that segment of India where they own all the hotels, 40% of the hotels in America, they loan each other money. They do. The difference is that they have a code of conduct where they have a process that they go through. If you don't pay somebody back, you don't pay back cousin so and so, oh, they're gonna come get you for that. You're gonna have to deal with that. And so to me, when I think about loaning money, I look at it as obviously you shouldn't loan money to everybody, and then also you have to know what you're getting into, right?
But
Because
that's not a personal loan. What you're talking, I'm referring to personal loans. What you're referring to is like business loans, and I think that's different. You should make a different.
I do agree with that. I agree with that. You're right. You're right. But
Yeah.
what I will say too, though, is here's where I'm going to definitely agree with you about loaning money. Why you should be skeptical about it. Remember this: most of us are pretty much products of our habits. Our life is a manifestation of the choices you make, the habits you have, and the way that you think. Like if I weigh 400 pounds, you can look at me and pretty much guess what my eating habits probably are, right? Most of the time, right? It doesn't make, I'm not dissing anybody, but that's just true. Or if I'm in really great shape, you can look at me and see, or if I live in a big mansion, you can see that I probably did something financially that got me in that mansion. So when you see a person, and how many of y'all, give me a yes or no, give me a yes in the chat if you can think of a relative who always has financial problems. Give me a yes if you know, if you think, I want you to think about that cousin who always is behind on the rent,
And
who's
don't
always
go up to them. Don't go up to them and say you got financial demons or money
no, no,
demons.
no, no, no.
Don't
I'm
say
not
that
saying
to
that. No, no, no.
people.
But let me finish this. Let me finish this in that. Let me finish this
Uh-huh.
analogy, and then I'm gonna hand the ball back to you, babe. So think. I want you to give me a yes if you can think of that cousin who's always behind on the rent, who's always an inch away from being evicted, who's always got a trauma story, a scary story, who's all and doesn't even know that their role in the process. It's always somebody else's fault. It's always temporary. It's always just this one time, right? And so really, to your point about not loaning money to people, you got to understand that it was their bad financial habits and choices that got them to where they are right now. So, by definition, to some extent, at least 8 times out of 10, when you make that loan to that cousin who's always struggling financially, that is a bad loan because that person in your mind should have bad credit because you can see that they're making bad choices. So your odds of really getting your money back are probably much lower than you think. But maybe you can't see that because they sound so convincing when they tell you it's just this one time. I'm gonna pay you as soon as I get my check on Tuesday, and it's really Uncle Rerun's fault. I don't have any money. So my point is to say that that's where I agree with you. That maybe in that situation, again, it's not me telling you not to do it. It's me saying make sure you know what you're getting into. So if I know I'm loaning money to a deadbeat or who doesn't know that they're a deadbeat, I'm not going to tell them they're a deadbeat. They're already feeling pretty bad. I don't want to make them feel worse. Then I might loan that money knowing that it's a gift. So you say, hey, I need $1,000 by Tuesday. I might say, okay, here's $150. Here's my contribution because I'm not prepared to give you $1,000 or $500 or some number that's really going to set me back. And I think that's where the trauma, and you can give me your thoughts on what I just said, babe. But I think that's where the trauma kicks in, is where you loan that person an amount of money you're not comfortable giving away, and you need that money back, and then they don't deliver, and then you're scared. Now you're the one who's financially unstable because you were climbing up a ladder. You reached down to pull them up, and they pulled you off the ladder. So now you're freaking out because now both of y'all in financial trouble. That's what I've seen happen many times. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's so fascinating that okay, so I'm gonna put my I'm gonna speak from the position of the lender, of the person who has seen the heartache in another individual. They've connected to that, and they've decided that they need to be the hero in somebody else's story. They themselves feel like they need to be the hero in someone else's story. So in that sense, the loaner, the individual with the money, is in an up position. And then they feel like I can help this person out, not really to help that person out, maybe, but also it is a feel-good moment for them. So there's a lot of individuals who use their money and their position of power, not necessarily to help that person, because sometimes you cannot help somebody by opening up your checkbook. Sometimes when you look at situations and you see somebody in these dire situations, you cannot help them by opening up your checkbook and just writing a check. If you could write a check and help people out of their misery, it would be so much easier. It depends on how you look at the situation and how you assess the situation, because sometimes other people's sort of issues is a way where you can jump in and be the hero so that you can feel good. So you really do, it's a dynamic process. You really do need to think about what is driving your behavior, that you feel like you need to save everybody. And ultimately, nobody can save anybody. And I hate to put it that way. As a therapist, I want to say that I can help save everybody, but I really don't think I can. I know that what I can do is I can help people. I can give them the map and I can give them the compass of how to have a successful relationship, how to be healthy in their interactions with other people. But it's up to them to use all the evidence-based practice that I know, because that's what I operate on as a therapist. They can use those things. They have to, outside of the sessions, do the work. They have to decide, okay, I'm going to make a change and I'm going to face this demon, because all demons are negative thoughts. I'm going to face my negative thoughts about this situation. I'm going to look at it directly and I'm going to shrink it down, face it directly. Someone wrote in the chat, the shadow side. They're spot on, whoever that person was. I can't remember their name, but that's the shadow side of you. And when you avoid and when you fixate on things, that is when that shadow grows. But when you start thinking about not what you don't have, but what you do have, and address that, that is what grows. I don't know, should we call it a financial angel? Maybe money angels. Money angels all around you. Abundance is around you, but you have to see it in your everyday life. And you have to empathize with other people who haven't quite gotten there. So I was saying that, interrupting you, I'm sorry, to say, you don't talk to somebody and say, you got a financial demon. That's not what you do to other people. Because the point of this morning, the point of this on Sunday morning is not to save anybody else. The point of this is to use these tools that Boyce talks about every morning, is to use these concepts and incorporate it into your own life. That's the point. You can send people the link and ask them to join, but it's up to them if they're going to click on the link, if they're going to listen to this, if they're going to incorporate all of this into their life.
Well, okay. So, by the way, I want to mention to everybody that we're talking about money demons today, and money demons are pretty much anything, any sorts of fears, anxieties, negative beliefs about money that sabotage your financial well-being. In fact, let's do a quick poll. I want everybody to give me a yes if you can think of at least one money demon that you may have that keeps you from reaching your goal. Give me a yes if you have one fear that's really held you back. Give me a yes if you have maybe some anxieties that hold you back. Give me a yes if you have some negative beliefs about money that were passed down to you that have held you back. Maybe, like for example, you should go to college and give $200,000 away of your money, and so you can get a job that you hate. Again, I'm not saying that this happens to most people, but this is one belief that maybe should be adjusted a little bit, not because college is bad, because I don't think it's bad, but because maybe that isn't giving us what we want. Also, I want you to give me a yes if you have some sort of psychological barrier that maybe comes from a past experience that involved money, maybe a past trauma, maybe something related to society pressures, pressures in terms of what you do with your money, how to use your money. In fact, I'm gonna lay this out, babe, and I want you to kind of take this in the direction of one limiting belief about money that plagues a lot of people. Have y'all? I don't know if y'all have ever heard me talk about this, but I brought it up a long time ago. One time on SNL, they did a segment called Black Jeopardy. And my wife is laughing because she knows how it just irked me so bad. And they had Leslie Jones, the comedian, and she was on this show called Black Jeopardy. And in Black Jeopardy, I remember they had two black people and a white guy. I think the white guy was Tom Hanks. And so if you remember, in the show Jeopardy, what they do is they ask you the question and then you give the answer. So the question was something like, they give you the answer and then you state the question. That's what I mean. So the answer was, your boss wants to take $50 out of your check every week for your 401k. And I think Tom Hanks was, the white guy's like, you say absolutely or whatever, right? Like you put, you want to invest. And Leslie Jones goes, and she says, you better give me my money so I can buy me some scratch offs. And that was really, it didn't make me laugh, right? I'm sure people thought it was funny because they're like, yeah, that's what black people be doing. We be spending our money on scratch offs. Yeah, well, that's why you ain't got no money in your 401k, right? Because somebody told us that makes sense. But they're kind of positioning us for a lot of long-term financial anxiety. I've seen people who become millionaires off their 401k, but by maxing it out at an early age. You max that thing out at 22, 23 years old. When you hit retirement, you're very wealthy. And remember that you don't just get the benefit when you retire. You're financially secure for a good 20 or 30 years, even before retirement, because you've got hundreds of thousands of dollars sitting over to the side in case you lose your job, in case you really need the money, in case you want to buy a home, in case you want to quit your job, or in case something bad happens. So let me ask you about this, babe. So what is your assessment in terms of what I just said about that Black Jeopardy thing? I feel like that's kind of a money demon that some parts of our culture, what we call the culture, it can be a little bit anti-wealth, because you don't see a lot of wealth coming from the culture. What do you say to that?
Yeah, I mean, there was a really sad display. And, I know so many people that would do that, so that's why I would chuckle a little bit when I saw it. I was like, I chuckled initially, and then I was like, oh, that's pretty sad. That hurt. I mean, to me, it just really hurt because she is representing Black women when she's on SNL. Any Black woman on media represents subconsciously all Black women. So for her to say that, she's representing in the minds of other people and in our minds as well on a subconscious level, she's representing how we feel about ourselves and a part of us that just want instant money. And, a scratch off, that's exciting. I love going to the casino, that's exciting, quick money, but that's not long-term. And it's sad when you think about it the second time. So your initial reaction is to giggle, but then you think about it more and you're like, dang, that hurts. It really hurts that's what we put our nest egg in, spending our money at the track. I had an uncle who would be at the track all the time, spending his money. I mean, if he had invested, he would have, before he passed away, he could have left his kids some money, some actual money. And it's sad because that is a money demon in our culture. And it's so fascinating how money demons are really just negative thoughts and beliefs about money. and thinking that we don't have enough and thinking that we can't do enough. And money demons is also in how we spend. You see it in how we spend. We want to have social approval and respect of others. And unfortunately, we live in a culture where you are respected if you have, and not only that if you have money, but if you spend it in this elaborate sort of way, you get this social approval and respect. And that's the thing where that's the sad part about it. Because I mean, I know millionaires that walk around and they just have on regular t-shirt and jeans. You wouldn't even know they were millionaires, but they walking around and they're just happy with themselves. They don't feel like they need to have to flaunt it or go to the club or go to VIP section and spend a ridiculous amount of money on the weekend. It's just insane what people do. And that's us running a program. We're running a program that's been given to us and reinforced by SNL. Thank you, SNL, for reinforcing that in us. It's terrible.
Well, it does create kind of this weird awkwardness where when you start doing things that are healthy, you start doing things that are smart and savvy and embrace delayed gratification over instant gratification. And it's really unfortunate when you run into somebody who is so possessed by their own money demons that they literally accuse you of not acting black, like you acting white, and and that happens a lot. You have people that make healthy choices, and then somebody says, "Oh, you think you white, or you think you better than everybody else," and I know I've gone through that. I don't know if anybody else has ever gone through that, but I've gone through that. If you
It's crazy.
yeah. Just even when I mean, just when I just think about, like, even when I created this platform to sort of do what we do, I remember I would say this is the home for intelligent black people. And you remember when Kwame Brown, the NBA player, was like you uppity, you think you better than everybody else. And I'm like, well, what's wrong with being intelligent? Like, would you feel better if I said this is the platform for stupid black people? You a sellout. What are you talking about? Like, that you don't like the word intelligent? Like, that was so strange to me. And I really would say that is a self-esteem issue. If you think that being black means you're supposed to be ignorant, then just go sign yourself up for slavery. I mean, you would do well in 1702. Massa would love you. You would do quite well on the plantation because you are under all these constant threats. There are so many people that want to control you, that want to extract things from you, they want to harm you, they want to incarcerate you. They don't even, they want your son dead. They want to own your entire family. So why would you go into a battlefield like that where threats are everywhere and then want to be ignorant, blind, deaf, dumb, and stupid? That don't even make no sense. That's completely illogical. And so circling back to just money demons, babe, when I see a money demon, I think of it like the movie The Exorcist, where the demon possesses you.
Yeah.
And in my view, when you have not healed, when you have experienced horrific amounts of trauma as a child, like lots of us do, and you're carrying all this with you, and you explain to me, by the way, my wife is a certified trauma specialist, right? By the way, she did get a certification. I remember you got the certification because she talks to me a lot, and I try my best to listen, and you were telling me things as you were learning them. I remember you telling me about how trauma, like, literally kills you, how traumatized people have all these physical health issues, mental health issues. And a lot of us, once you understand trauma, you can identify traumatized people when you see them. It's that person who's going to cut you out over a bowl of Cheerios. Maybe it's that person who sprints away every time they run into a healthy relationship, right? Just whatever. Or who takes a molehill and turns it into a mountain, whatever. And it's kind of like one of these things where these demons do possess us. And if you imagine me being possessed by a demon, I'm not really who God meant for me to be. I'm who Satan meant for me to be. I'm who the devil wants me to be. I'm showing up and I'm like, that demon may come from, some anxiety or some fear, or perhaps it comes from drugs and alcohol, some bad habits that I have. Maybe it comes from my failures of the past or things that haunt me. Maybe it comes from societal pressure. I was listening to my favorite rapper who told me that I'm supposed to disrespect women, stay high and drunk all the time, beat people up if they make me mad, and make poor decisions, right? But to me, that's what I see. I see the demons possessing us. And to me, to be healthy, you got to do an exorcism. You know, you got to exercise. The more you exercise those demons out of your body, I think the better you are, like the healthier you are and the better of a human being you are, for not just for others, but also for yourself. What do
Yeah,
you think?
it's so crazy. You're talking about the financial demons. I remember going to college and I had a this white boy in my one of my classes, and he had on like dirty gym. He had on old gym shoes. And where I come from, like, why would you be wearing old shoes? And in my mind, I'm making fun of him because he got on these raggedy shoes. But as I got to talk to him, I'm like, this man is wealthy. And in my mind, it's just like, why would you have all that money and still wear these? Like, you should get a brand new pair of shoes. I was like, you need to go now and get the shoes, because I cannot understand. Like, in my mind, it was just like the first thing I would do if I had money, or if I came from a family with a whole lot of money, is I'd have on some nice shoes. You know, I would not walk around like that. And I think, like, in white boy land, maybe that makes him feel more wholesome and more genuine. I have no idea, but I couldn't understand it for the life of me. And I'm just looking back on that. I'm like, what was wrong with me back then? But that was where I came from, you know? And so I think the best way to get rid of the financial demons is, number one, to recognize that it's there. Most people don't understand how they don't reflect on what they do and how they spend their money and what they feel like it's important. So I really do think that we need to reflect. We need to reflect on instances and become very self-aware, be able to connect the dots. Because listen, Boyce just talked about trauma, and I just want to say something about trauma. Trauma is not because a bad thing happened to you. That's not trauma. Trauma is when something happens to you and you disconnect from how you feel, and you disconnect and you can't connect your current behavior with what's happened to you in the past that's triggering you. You don't understand that. That's when it shows up as trauma. So the best way to get rid of the financial demons is self-awareness and insight. Is being able to understand. You can do the exorcism on yourself. Basically you do. I ask questions like, tell me what happened. Why did you react so strongly to this? What was it reminiscent of? And you have these conversations in a place to process all of these unfortunate things that happen to you, so that you don't disconnect from it and you walk around as a traumatized person and spending your money impulsively on these things meant to cover up the pain that you feel inside.
Well, and it is that covering up the pain makes sense, particularly when you consider that money is a drug. Money, receiving money makes you feel good. Not having enough money can create anxiety, just like a drug.
Or the belief that you don't have enough money.
Say it again. Oh yeah,
the belief that you don't have enough money.
There we go. And it's like if you imagine how a crackhead must feel when they can't get no crack. There's a lot of anxiety attached to that, right?
Oh, but let me tell you, nobody is better at getting money than somebody who's on drugs. They are really good at manipulation.
Yeah.
At manipulation. They are. I mean, I have seen just remarkable performances from people who are on drugs, manipulate others to get money out of them. It's their entire life. As soon as they wake up in the morning, they're like, how am I going to get my next fix? Who am I going to call? What sad story am I going to tell so this person can give me some money? What do I need to do? And they execute. Nobody has more clear vision and execution than a drug addict. It is really remarkable what they do.
Well, I'll tell you, it's you are right. I mean, when I think about the financial crackhead, though, like just the person that that has various financial addictions where money is used as a way to ease certain pain, it makes you think about the study by Professor Andrew Lowe at MIT, where he talked about how money affects the part of your brain that is also affected by cocaine. And so to me, I'm also thinking about it in terms of just this idea that, that making certain choices that may not be healthy for me allows me to heal pain that exists because I'm carrying these demons around, and the demons have to be fed. So the demon might be a gambling addiction. The demon might be, fear or anxiety. I think other demons, one demon that plagues a big part of the community I've noticed is scarcity. When you talk about scarcity thinking versus abundance thinking, a person who thinks in terms of scarcity is going to fight you over resources. They're going to compete with you when they could collaborate with you. they're going to hate on you when they should be congratulating you. Because why? Well, because they see whatever you're getting, whatever you have, whatever you're doing as a reflection of why they don't have what they want. Or you getting something means there's less of it for them. You get a good man, she's upset because she can't get the same thing you get, or you're doing well and making money. Well, now your success reflects on my lack of success. So to me, an abundance mindset might come from I would argue that a less traumatized person is more likely to have an abundance mindset and to say, look, there's enough for everybody. I want to see you win. I'm happy for you. And I've seen this just even in terms of just even business. When I would think about collaborating with someone, it's mutually supporting each other. But then I see them and I'm like, wow, this person's really competing with me. Like they feel that they can only be successful if they tear me down or something. And I just think that to me that's a demon. The scarcity mindset. Remember, Europeans brought that scarcity mindset to Africa. And you saw what they did to Africa. The Africans were open and trusting. They said, look, there's plenty of fruit. There's plenty of gold.
There's an abundance in Africa.
Right.
Yeah.
There's plenty of lumber, whatever you want. We got it. And the Europeans
that becomes part of your culture. I mean, just think about how the Europeans came in and just invaded Africa. Mm-hmm. It's because think about Europe. It's a cold rock. Nothing grows in Europe. Nothing's colder. I mean, I enjoy Europe for the culture and everything, but I just do not. That place is it's cloudy. It's always cold in my mind. Like I've never been to a beautiful tropical, beautiful vacation in Europe where the weather was great. Like the people are great and the culture and everything, but the weather is just not always. Take a jacket. You can be in, January. I mean, July, June. You're gonna need a jacket in Europe. So I mean, that part was just kind of unusual for me. And then I start thinking about the climate and how everything is just so nourishing, the soil, everything. Like you throw a seed somewhere, it's going to grow and there's an abundance. So that's what's put into our culture as Black people. And I really do think that we need to actively work on getting back to who we are as originals. I'm talking about as indigenous populations. I spend a lot of time sitting with the indigenous mindset, and I love spending my time meditating and focusing on the music of indigenous people. Nothing is more uplifting than listening to music and sounds that heal the body, did not tear us down. So, all day yesterday, sorry, boys, had to listen to my indigenous music that I had to play, but it's positive. It's beautiful. It tells you you can do it. And all of that has an effect. It all has an effect on how you see life. So I love taking out time in this westernized society and sitting with Native American tribes and listening to the indigenous, because I know that's who I am originally. I'm so connected to it that I know it. I'm getting off into this woo-woo, boys.
So it's okay. It's okay. So if you have a question for Dr. Alicia, put your question inside the Q&A section, and we're gonna go through the question. Make the question short if you can. That way we can get everybody's question. Also, Alicia's website. She sees clients on an individual basis. She sees couples. She also sees families. So if you'd like to go take a look at what she does, you can go to coachingwithdralicia.com. That's coachingwithdralicia.com. And if you go to drboycebooks.com, she has workbooks on things like financial anxiety and some other things that relate to relationships in particular. So if you go to drboycebooks.com, we have a whole section on love and money. We call it the Love and Money Lab. And you can go in there and dig in and find stuff that can help you not just have healthier relationships, but maybe deal with what's going on internally when it comes to your finances and all that stuff. Because you gotta fix it, you gotta heal if you want to grow, if you want to evolve and become a better person. So let me just sort of jump back to the guilt. I've heard you talk a lot about guilt and shame. And one thing I've noticed in terms of a money demon that can affect a lot of people is maybe guilt or shame about mistakes that were made, right? Like give me a yes in the chat if you have financial mistakes that are just embarrassing. Give me a yes in the chat if you have come back from a terrible credit score, or you're trying to come back and you're just so ashamed of it, you don't even want to look at it. Or maybe you're so far behind on certain bills, you're just like, oh my God, I'm not even gonna open it. Or maybe you have shame about maybe you're an investor and you have shame. I don't know about y'all, but I'm gonna tell you what, I'll start off by admitting my source of shame and embarrassment. I'm embarrassed by the fact that I didn't just hold on to my Bitcoin back in like 2014, 2015. I think I sold it and then I made all these adjustments and I'm like, boys, all you do, all you do is sit on it. Just you were doing too much. Right? So I make mistakes. We all do, right? And that mistake I made was more so driven by some of the things that I talked to you all about, which was basically, I think as the market was moving, I said, okay, well, maybe this Bitcoin thing isn't going to work out. But I know people, starting with my wife, who literally bought the Bitcoin in like 2015 or 2016 and didn't even look at it for 6 or 7, 8 years. And then next thing you know, I think you made $100 investment. It turned into almost $1,000. And that is the best way to invest. So that's a source of shame and embarrassment I
No,
had.
I feel guilty because I couldn't find my password. I had to reset my password to go back into my account. It had been so long since I've been in there.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
funny.
yeah. And I think that there's just a lot of there is a
Yeah.
lot of shame because you maybe for a lot of us you start off struggling financially. You don't always know what to do. You make mistakes for emotional reasons, maybe because you have a short-term temporary problem and you handled it in a way that had some long-term implications. Maybe your student loans leave you feeling a little bit guilty and angry because of whatever. So what about guilt and shame? How did tell me about that in your practice and when you confront that when somebody's just feeling really guilty and bad about mistakes they made in the past that they can't go back and fix, how do you even approach that?
Yeah, I mean, well, guilt and shame are two different things. And from a clinical perspective, guilt is basically when you do something wrong and you feel bad about that particular act and you work to try to correct it. So suppose my scenario I like to give is suppose you are there's an office building and you work at this office and everybody's coming in and out of the parking lot and everyone's parking. So if you drive into this parking lot and you hit somebody's car as you're pulling in, you hit the side door, it's a little bit of a dent. It's what are you going to do about that? So guilt says you feel guilty. You say, you know what? I am going to go into the office. I did this. I'm going to go into the office and maybe talk to the receptionist and ask the receptionist, do you know whose car this is? And if they do, maybe they connect you to the person, the owner of the car, and you go up and you say, hey, I just hit your car. Here's my insurance information. I'm really sorry about that. Boom. That's guilt, right? Where shame is something where, shame is where you think, what is wrong with me? There's something wrong with me. Maybe that's the first time you've hit a car or something. Or maybe you've hit a bunch of different cars and then you're just like, oh my God, there's something wrong with me. Why am I getting to these car accidents? And it kind of can carry itself out in a sense where you don't necessarily feel guilty, but you may tell yourself, what do you tell yourself in the midst of that shame? Where some people can say, you know what? I'm not going to feel shame because I don't get into car accidents. This is a one-off. But shame happens when you say, you know what? Maybe I've been hitting people every time I pull into a parking lot. There's something wrong with me. I need to kind of fix it because I need to start learning how to drive better, or I need to figure out how to pull into this parking spot better. Now, the thing where unhealthy shame comes in, where I talk about it in my office, is where you feel shamed and what you do with it. You say, you know what? I think there's something wrong with this person. Why would they park their car that way? I wouldn't have hit them. You're not taking responsibility for what you've done. Okay. You say, you know what? I never would have hit them if they hadn't been parking their car sideways. So what's wrong with these people in the way they're parking? See, I wouldn't have done it. You take no accountability and no responsibility because you can't deal with the shame. It's too powerful for you to deal with that shame because it's tied to so much insecurities. And I see that a lot in my office, particularly with romantic relationships where you've done something to your partner and you know you shouldn't have done, and there's so much shame attached to it. You feel like such a terrible person that you cannot apologize to your loved one by something that you did. Your actions caused someone else to feel this way. You need to feel guilty about it. But some people come from such a place of shame in a clinical sense that they can't take responsibility for what they've done.
Okay, wow, that's giving me a lot to think about. Okay, so shame
No
is
accountability.
okay, so the shame might appear as me sort of creating a belief that something's wrong with me because I did something for which maybe I should feel some sort of guilt.
It's your
it's almost like,
behavior. It's not being able to disconnect. You disconnect, I did something wrong with I am wrong. It's the behavior attached to that. And what you do if you feel level of shame, and a lot of it is parenting. That's just parenting that instilled in you, there's something wrong with you. Okay, you make a mistake. All children make mistakes. And as parents, we need to correct their behavior and say, I love you dearly. You're a beautiful person who made this mistake. Let's see if we can fix it, right? That's what you want to give your children. But when you say, what's wrong with you? You must be stupid. People calling you names and putting you down. You have so much shame attached to that when you're an adult, you can't have relationships with anybody because you're making mistakes and you're not accountable to it. And some people call it narcissism and it is a narcissistic trait, but I don't want to put it in those words because that's a clinical word. All of us, we shouldn't be using that on a daily basis, but it's just not being able to say, I behaved in this way and I need to make it right.
Okay, so put that in the context of money and money demons. Like, so are you saying that my shame of mistakes I made for which I should feel guilty, that internalizing that shame can create a demon that might affect my choices going forward? That because I'm ashamed that I kept a bad credit score, I see myself as financially irresponsible, and because maybe I don't want to deal with the shame, maybe I avoid certain things, like, because it almost sounds to me like you're saying the shame isn't required. Maybe guilt is okay, but shame is not required, because shame is almost like that internalization of guilt to say something's wrong with me, as opposed to something's wrong with what I did. And when you carry that shame, that becomes the demon that possesses you, that then causes you to engage in avoidant behavior because you don't want to confront the shame, or you don't want to confront the bad feelings that may come with that shame.
Yeah, because you feel so ashamed, you fall apart every time you make a mistake. No one expects you to be perfect, but you put that on yourself, this level of perfection that you have on yourself because you're too ashamed. You're too ashamed, and you make a catastrophe just because you had a bad month or something. It's not a catastrophe. Things ebb and flow all the time. That's a universal law, right? The Hermetic principles. You also study Hermetic principles. It's a law. What goes up is going to go down, and you have to be able to figure out how to ride the waves without internalizing it and thinking there's something wrong with you.
Now that's I think I get that concept. I know that professionally, kind of dealing with something that feels like shame is what allowed me to really do what I do. I remember when I would go on TV and do stuff, you're always so scared in the beginning that you're going to make a mistake or say something stupid or get something wrong. And I remember just kind of saying, just because I get something wrong doesn't mean I'm not qualified. Just because I make a mistake doesn't mean I don't know what I'm doing. Everybody makes mistakes. And nobody's any better than me. Other people make mistakes and they don't, it's not the end of their careers. They don't walk away in shame and give up. You just keep coming back, right? So that to me is really, I almost feel like what you're saying about guilt and shame is also connected to self-love. Like in my view, this was literally my processing. And again, I'm not a therapist, but I think that we are our own best therapist. So what gave me a lot of confidence, not fake confidence. I don't have to pretend to be confident. I really am confident in what I do and what I know. What gave me confidence was not this false belief that I'm perfect. What gave me confidence was having enough self-love to forgive myself when my imperfections show up. When my flaws pop out and I do something stupid and I say, oh man, dang, I really messed that up. It's all right. We're going to go right back at it. Because I love Boyce, and if you love something, you'll never give up on that thing. You'll never give up on that person.
And you apologize. You're good at apologizing to Boyce. You can say, "Oh gosh, I'm so sorry. How can we make this right? How can we make this right? And let's just move on." That is beautiful. Nothing's worse than when somebody does something and they go into this place of shame and they never apologize. They say, "Well, I wouldn't have done it if you hadn't have done that. I wouldn't have done it if you hadn't done that. I wouldn't have done it. It wasn't just on me. If you hadn't done this," where you start to just in your mind, because the shame is so painful for you, because it's of course reminiscent of how you were treated when you were younger. and you start seeing that person as a parent, and you start saying, no, I wasn't, and you feel like you need to defend yourself instead of just saying, yes, it was a mistake. I did it wrong. I feel sorry. Let's move on. And
I do agree, but I'm gonna tell you one area where I'm going to challenge that a little bit is sometimes I feel like I need to defend myself. There's some like if someone comes up to, and I get it, I hear what you're saying. I want to hear your perspective on this, but if somebody comes up and says you stole my purse and I didn't steal your purse, my first reaction is going to be like, no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you think I stole your purse, but I didn't do it. Right.
No,
And
what you say, yeah.
So go ahead. I want to hear your perspective, but I think defending yourself is okay too in some situations. Like, I don't think being defenseless works, right? What do you think?
No, I mean, you asked them the question. You say, okay, wait, you think I stole your purse? The best thing, it's a reaction to be defensive. All of us get defensive, but you have to stop yourself and you have to say, okay, what information do you have that makes you think I stole your purse?
Mm-hmm.
What information did you gather to make you conclude that I stole your purse, and hear that person out? Because that is where a lot of problems can really be dissolved between individuals, is the other person doesn't feel like they've heard the other person out. So you hear the person out and you say, wait, you saw me on video? Show me the video. And then you look at the video, you'd be like, what day? I wasn't here on that day. I wasn't in the parking lot. Maybe it's a video of the park. You hit my car. Okay, well, there was cameras out there. Show me the camera of me hitting your car, because I really want to hear how you came to this conclusion. Do that instead of defensive, because it's these beautiful conversations that are never had between individuals, and they just start fighting each other, and it escalates. It doesn't have to. And in the moment where you really feel defensive, that's a signal to yourself to stop and say, how did you come to that? What information did you gather? Because it could be that person really did see a video of you stealing their purse, and then you can clearly say, yes, I totally understand why you thought it was me. But guess what? I wasn't even there. That was somebody else that looked like me. Let me show you. Let's work together and find out. I don't know. You don't have to work together with somebody to find out who stole their purse, but you can definitely give them some empathy.
Okay. Yeah. Well, and it's funny. It reminds me when Oprah said a long time ago, where she said, everybody just wants to be heard.
Yeah.
And I think that was a really wise thing for her to say. And so I think that really that, all these emotions you mentioned, guilt and shame and everything else, sometimes can make us dismissive of other people, and that doesn't work. And then sort of circling that back around to the financial stuff, in terms of money demons, I really think that being able to have a healthy way to process those feelings that we may have, the guilt and the shame of bad financial choices and just the outcomes, I think that goes a long way in being your best self and being able being able to, right. So either you can fix the past, or maybe you can't fix the past, but either way, I think self-love love is powerful. Love goes a long way. And I think, and I would encourage you to love yourself enough to say, God is not through with me yet. I ain't perfect. And y'all have heard me say that. Y'all have heard me say, look, hey, just chalk it up to my imperfections. Because I know I'm good at what I do, and I'm proud of that. I'm proud that I worked so hard to become good at this. But at the same time, that self-love is huge in that, because you never become perfect at anything. And so don't give up on yourself, so don't give up on yourself because you got a bad credit score. Don't give up on yourself because the student loans have buried you. Or you feel like they buried you. Don't give up on yourself because you don't know everything you need to know. Keep pouring into yourself. You are the best investment you will ever make. And then one of the other best investments you'll ever make is the people that you love and the people you care about. So you pour into them with knowledge and preparation and information and everything else. And then eventually that turns into resources. It turns into action. And that's how you succeed financially. That's how you get rid of those money demons, and you start operating on a higher frequency. And that's what economic awareness is all about. Economic awareness is partly driven by self-awareness, driven by consciousness, being aware and conscious of all the things that might keep you from getting to where you want to get to. So dealing with the money demons, I think, is something that we all have to do. So, babe, I want you to get the last word. I want to mention everybody, Dr. Alicia Watkins. Her website is coachingwithdralicia.com. So feel free to go to her site if you want to see what she does as a therapist, and she meets with couples, individuals, and families. So that's coachingwithdralicia.com. Also, I have this book called Financial Lovemaking, and she and I actually created this 5-day love challenge. If you guys want to take a look, if you go to boyceandalicia.com, remember that, babe? We
I
did
do
that about
remember
two,
that.
three, about 3-4 years ago, but it's really good. So feel free to go to boyceandalicia.com. You get a free copy of my book, Financial Lovemaking. And also, if you want to get other resources from Dr. Alicia, you can actually text the word love to 87948. So she does a lot of good stuff on relationships and in addition to financial therapy. So babe, why don't I'll let you get the last word. Any parting thoughts you want to share?
Yeah, I'm really thinking right now, even making a financial mistake doesn't make you a financial mistake, right? And I think that when I say you can correct it, you can just say, "Oh, that was terrible. Let me fix it by adjusting things. Things need to be calibrated in your financial life all the time, and take out time to focus on your finances. It doesn't have to be every day, Boyce. Boyce talks about finances and focuses on it every day, but that's fine for him. Okay. But I really do think that you should schedule whatever's comfortable for you to just fix it and stop ruminating on the past. That rumination, and really get to the point where you can process things and you feel like you processed it out, these terrible things that have happened to you financially, and you can get to a place where you can have compassion for yourself and you can have grace for yourself, but you now know better and now you can do better going forward. Absolutely. So that's what I would tell people.
That's right. All right, awesome. All right, let's do better, be better. Let's fight off the demons. The money demons hit all of us. And so if you want that, just sort of a quick summary of the money demons you may want to investigate, and maybe this is something we can go deeper into. Maybe we can develop a class around this or something. But I would just to give you some ideas on where you might look for those money demons. One might be scarcity, having a scarcity mindset. They may cause you to have insecurities that they get in the way of progress, like jealousy or competing with people that you should be collaborating with, guilt over spending or things like that, or maybe debt or mistakes that you made in the past. Guilt and shame are big factors. Also, maybe anxiety over things like debt or income or financial instability. Financial anxiety is very big. If you go to drboycebooks.com, Dr. Alicia has a workbook to help you work through and analyze and become aware of any financial anxiety you may have. She did a whole financial anxiety workbook. So feel free to go to drboycebooks.com. You can scroll down to the love and money section. Maybe a fear of failure. Anybody got a fear of failure? Just I'm scared to go start this business because I'm scared this business is not going to work. Well, I get that. Everybody feels that way, and it's really hard to imagine putting a lot of time and money into something and having it not work out. It's tough, it's embarrassing, and you don't get a lot of support. You don't have a lot of people in the family saying, go, go, go. You have a lot of people sitting back saying, I'm just waiting for that Negro to fail. When they fail, I'm gonna sit back and I'm gonna tell them why they did, and it's always the people that ain't doing nothing that do the most talking. So having a process to sort of get to that point is, I think, a really big deal. And actually, if you want to look into like a business that you can start that doesn't fail, again, go to drboyceprime.com. Those are a lot of Prime members are in this class right now, and you can say something in the chat. drboyceprime.com. I think that whole idea of starting your business by selling stock options is really, in my view, the most effective, most superior way to starting a business, or the most superior method I've ever seen, because the business is highly liquid. It doesn't require any work, and you start making income from day one. You just need a capital base. So if you want to go take a look at that, feel free to go to drboyceprime.com, or if you text the word money to 87948, I'll send you a free training called How to Make Money Without Working. It is highly efficient. It is literally how I make my money. Errol's, and I see Errol, James, I see you all. So yeah, so feel free to just talk to the other students that are in the class. I like that better than the other method, because the other method was you throw a bunch of money at it, you work your butt off, you wait a year or two, and then maybe you make some money, right? And that's really a hard way to get ahead. So to me, I was like, oh gosh, I should have been doing this when I was 20. So teach this stuff to your kids so they can do it when they're 20 instead of wasting 20 or 30 years like the rest of us did. Other areas where a financial demon or money demon might show up might be maybe you avoid making plans because you're having trouble dealing with instant gratification versus delayed gratification. Instant gratification and the dopamine dopamine release, the good feelings that you get from sleeping and chilling when you could have been working a little bit, or eating the wrong foods when you could have been eating healthy, or just making unhealthy choices when you really want to sort of think about the long term. I think that's a demon too. That instant gratification is another type of demon that really affects so many of us in our lives. It affects all of us. It's a demon that I fight every single day. Do I eat a salad, or do I put my hand in that bag of chips? And my wife will tell you right now, I got a bag of chips next to the bed. So some of these demons don't ever really go away. It's a daily fight. So literally sometimes that inability to focus on the long term, to have that higher level of consciousness required for you to focus on the long term, to me, that's a demon. That's another type of demon. And I know I'm saying too much, and I don't know if my wife has something to say in response to that, but
I probably do.
but literally all of us we have our higher selves and we have our ghetto self. You know what I'm talking about? Like, you got the higher level of you where you're just doing everything right. You're getting up in the morning, you're handling your business, you're making plans, you're getting it done. And then you have the other side that's just lazy and don't want to focus and doesn't want to do the right things, doesn't want to even eat right, doesn't want to save, wants to spend, right? So really, this is why I actually started doing this money in the morning financial consciousness thing, because what I realized is, I said, if we wake up every morning and we commit ourselves to being our best selves, that gives us a much higher probability of success. Because remember, being the best does not always mean that you're always at your best. Like I'm pretty good at this financial thing. Some people would say that I'm one of the best, but I ain't always at my best, and neither are you. None of us are. So my goal is every morning to convince you to find the best version of you and make sure that person shows up for work every day. And that's how you're going to win. That's how you're going to succeed. That's how you're going to overcome all the demons, the cultural demons, the psychological demons, the emotional demons. That's how you're going to fight the battle. And the battle never ends, but you will win because you're built for this. Babe, did you have something else you want to say before? Because I know I said a lot. Did you have something you wanted to?
We'll save it for next time.
Okay, all right.
I don't want to get into a loop with you.
All right. Well, I hope that you will give Dr. Alicia a digital round of applause, digital thank you. I know she's my wife, but I'm sorry. I'd like to give my wife props for how hard she works. She elevates me because she's super disciplined. She's in that. She got me to join the 5 a.m. club, and we get up every morning and go work out. And and I'm inspired by her work ethic. And I always tell people, some of these sisters out here just kicking butt, taking names. And so you're a wonderful ally in this game of life. So thank you very much for joining me, babe. I really appreciate your time. And also, her website, one more time, is coachingwithdralicia.com. And so if you want to see what she does as a therapist, feel free to go there. And or if you want to get some free material from her, you can actually just text the word love to the number 87948, and there's some stuff that we can send you out that way as well. All right, so have a good day, everybody. I'll see you all tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. Every single day, 7 days a week, we do money awareness, financial consciousness training each morning. So make sure you're on the text list. To get on the text list, text the word morning to the number 879.